Standing over a bubbling crater, Rizel accepts that his attempt to forge a sword with the density of a neutron star has failed. Frustrated by the limits of his magic, he laments that he will never rival the ultimate lifeforms at this current pace. He lets out an exhausted sigh as the dust settles around him. Deciding it is time to move on, he prepares to activate his flight magic and head toward a populated city. Panic suddenly strikes as he remembers his family in the countryside, fueling his desperate realization that he cannot afford to die. Grudgingly touching his neck, he realizes his solo journey has peaked and considers finding teammates. A blinding crack of energy suddenly shatters the air behind him, catching him completely off guard. He stares in utter disbelief at the strange phenomenon unfolding right before his eyes. A massive, jagged rift tears through the fabric of space, leaving him deeply alarmed. He frantically checks his own spells, confirming that his flight magic is perfectly stable and not the cause. Bewildered, he intensely analyzes the bizarre spatial distortion ripping through the landscape. Dread sets in as he realizes the massive vortex could start sucking everything into the void. Reaching his hand forward, he recoils slightly as the energy violently pulses. Dark magical ripples emanate rapidly from the center of the dimensional tear. A beautiful woman elegantly materializes from the swirling darkness of the portal. Smiling warmly, she introduces herself as the summoning goddess Risha while Rizel stammers in absolute confusion. A long, painfully awkward silence stretches between the bewildered mage and the beaming deity. He side-eyes her with deep skepticism, completely unable to process her bold claim of divinity. Coughing into his fist to break the tension, he demands she clarify her ridiculous statement. Apologizing for the suddenness, she reveals she crossed into this world specifically in hopes of summoning a hero. She explains that her portal automatically drops her near the strongest person in the world, assuming he is the one. Rizel cringes inwardly, annoyed that she seems to be acting out a cliché fairy tale. Correctly reading his thoughts, she calmly confirms that this is definitely not a child's story. Shocked that she breached his mental barriers, he formally introduces himself as the strongest human alive. A new plan forming, he realizes that accompanying a goddess might give him the unique power to defeat superior lifeforms. Overjoyed by his sudden compliance, Risha claps her hands and showers him with gratitude. Cutting straight to the chase, Rizel bluntly asks her what his actual mission entails. She cheerfully instructs him to serve the king and slay the demon lord, a title he completely fails to recognize. Gesturing gracefully toward the gaping black void, she asks if her new hero is ready to depart. Bracing himself for the complete unknown, he gives her a hesitant but final confirmation. A glowing hand reaches forward to initiate the transdimensional gateway. Dazzling light engulfs the area as the intricate teleportation sequence triggers. Rizel gasps as his physical form begins to disintegrate into hovering light fragments. He watches in awe as his body is forcefully pulled into the collapsing vortex. Yielding to the magical current, he calmly accepts that true progress requires stepping directly into extreme danger. Closing his eyes, he fully surrenders his fate to the turbulent rift. They instantly materialize inside a majestic stone throne room surrounded by armed guards and a colossal statue. Opening his eyes to the grand architecture, Rizel finally accepts that he has crossed into another world. Risha stands respectfully beside him as they present themselves to the royal court. A booming voice echoes through the grand hall, offering the newly summoned hero a very warm welcome. Towering over the newly arrived group, the king formally introduces himself as the one who summoned them all. Glancing at the figures materializing around him, Rizel quickly realizes he is not the only person who was pulled into this world. 3 other men stand beside him, looking completely unfazed by their sudden dimensional shift. An advisor leans in and quietly confirms to the king that these 4 individuals are indeed the entirety of the summoned party. Taking in his new surroundings, Rizel silently validates his earlier suspicion about the group summoning. He narrows his eyes at his new companions, highly skeptical that these men are the best their worlds have to offer given their pitifully weak magic. Deciding to gather more intelligence, he prepares to secretly analyze their underlying statuses. His concentration is abruptly broken when the king steps forward, offering to explain the fundamental laws of this new world. Pausing his magical scan, Rizel decides it is wiser to listen to the monarch's briefing first. The king projects a visual aid, explaining that the world is divided into humans, demons, and a largely non-threatening demi-human population. Absorbing the information, Rizel notes that this racial hierarchy is virtually identical to his original world. The monarch's expression darkens as he explicitly states that the demons are the true threat to their survival. He warns that the demon's rapidly increasing influence in the ongoing war will soon result in total subjugation if left unchecked. A system prompt identifies the smiling, bespectacled man as summoned hero and civil servant Frodo. The heavily scarred, muscular fighter is classified by the system as summoned hero and adventurer Liul. The blonde warrior is revealed to be mercenary Banza, while Rizel is simply labeled as an unknown hero. Hearing about the demonic threat, Rizel casually reminisces about how he used to slaughter demons for mere training back home. Bowing deeply, the king desperately pleads for their strength, promising a lifetime of luxurious rewards if they annihilate the enemy. Frodo smiles greedily as Liul bursts into manic laughter, thrilled by the attractive deal and the chance to test his raw power. Banza coolly accepts the terms, stating he has absolutely no objections to wiping out humanity's greatest enemy. An official abruptly wheels a cart into the center of the room, announcing that they must now test the hero's current combat capabilities. Rizel eyes the appraiser crystal ball, deducing that it mathematically calculates a person's raw magic power and control. Brimming with confidence, Liul steps up to the pedestal, claiming the first attempt since he was the first to arrive. He aggressively slams his hand onto the orb, unleashing a blinding wave of energy that startles the officials. The appraiser stammers in absolute shock as the numbers materialize, prompting a confused Liul to demand what is wrong. Trembling with disbelief, the official can barely choke out the words as he reads the final combat power. The room erupts in ecstatic cheers as they announce Liul's staggering combat power of 4097. Watching the frantic celebration, Rizel tilts his head in genuine confusion, wondering if those numbers are actually considered impressive. Liul smugly cracks his neck as Frodo politely excuses himself to take the next turn at the crystal. Frodo effortlessly scores a 3664 while Banza hits 3776, leaving the officials in awe as the heroes smirk at their anticipated high rankings. Clasping his hands in awe, the official loudly praises the expected greatness of the summoned heroes. Gesturing toward the crystal, the official politely asks the final person to step forward for his evaluation. Stepping up to the pedestal, Rizel notes that the appraiser's unidentifiable formula somewhat bothers him. The goddess Risha watches him intently through narrowed eyes as he approaches the mysterious device. Rizel calmly walks toward the cart while the other three heroes watch him from the sidelines. He rests his hand against the smooth surface of the crystal, but immediately notices it isn't reacting at all. Sweating nervously, the official awkwardly laughs and assumes the machine simply isn't working well. The text on the crystal ball glitches out, prompting the official to wonder if it is malfunctioning. Frantically tapping on his console, the official begs Rizel to try one more time as the hero calmly asks what is wrong. Complying with the request, Rizel firmly places his gloved hand back onto the appraiser crystal. The official leans in incredibly close, sweating bullets as he anxiously waits for the new reading. Trembling in absolute disbelief, the official stammers out a combat power of 0, leaving the king utterly speechless. Confirming that the crystal isn't broken, the official validates the 0 score as Rizel stares in sheer shock. Desperate to defend himself, Rizel steps forward and tries to argue that the machine must be broken. Veins popping from his forehead, the furious king screams at the top of his lungs for Rizel to get out. The monarch vehemently refuses to recognize a 0 as a hero, demanding he leave the castle this instant. Rizel freezes, completely blindsided by the sudden and aggressive rejection. Begging them to wait, he insists the score is an error and promises he can actually use magic. Reaching into his pocket, he scrambles to find anything he can use to prove his magical capabilities. Pulling out a small object, he begs the royal court to watch his demonstration closely. He initiates Atom Reconstruction, an advanced spell that implicitly requires a massive combat power of 7,000. Declaring it the perfect magic for showing off, he unleashes a swirling vortex of energy around the small stone. The room watches as the dark lump of coal is instantly transmuted into a brilliant, flawless diamond. Smirking confidently, Rizel asks if they finally understand his power, but the unimpressed king simply questions the purpose of the trick. Rizel realizes with creeping horror that a spell to turn coal into diamond simply doesn't exist in this world. Sweating profusely, he desperately tries to explain that the spell is actually quite common back in his own world. Screaming for quiet, the enraged king brands him a useless charlatan and orders him thrown out of the castle at once. The other three heroes cruelly mock him, laughing at his pathetic fake magic and calling his existence a sad life. Panicking, Rizel turns to Goddess Risha and begs to know if anyone in this world understands the spell he just cast. Risha simply stares down at him in icy silence, crushing his last shred of hope as he realizes she cannot help him. The king furiously brands Rizel a scammer and screams for his guards to seize the intruder. Banishing him from the castle, the enraged monarch orders Rizel to take his fake gem as a farewell gift and never show his face again. Unceremoniously thrown out, the former hero finds himself standing alone in the middle of a bustling, unfamiliar town square. A passing little girl tugs at her mother's dress, pointing curiously at the strange man slumped over the public fountain. Clutching his head in despair, Rizel wonders what he should do now while the wary mother quickly pulls her daughter away. He cringes at the memory of the king screaming at him to get out, completely dumbfounded that he got betrayed just like a character in a cheap video game. A heavy, miserable silence hangs over him as he buries his face in his hands. Shaking off his sudden depression, he resolves to change his pace and take control of the situation. Looking up with renewed determination, he decides to carefully plan out his next moves. Stepping up to a nearby wooden door, he decides there is something crucial he needs to confirm right away. He enters a modest weapons and tools workshop, noting the sign that explicitly states they buy items off travelers' hands. The cheerful shopkeeper warmly welcomes him in, immediately recognizing him as a new face in town. Inspecting the stone through a loupe, the merchant marvels at the beautiful diamond as Rizel bluntly asks if he can buy it. Rizel worries about being labeled a scammer again, but his thoughts derail when the merchant easily identifies the gem as artificially made. Sweating nervously, Rizel asks if any shops work with artificial jewels, causing the merchant to wonder if he is being messed with. The older man explains the stone could be used as a cutter or abrasive, but admits he has never actually heard of an artificial diamond before. Stunned into absolute silence, Rizel realizes the people of this primitive world still haven't figured out how to artificially create diamonds. Knowing he needs money fast, he decides to avoid proper jewel shops entirely so no one starts asking uncomfortable questions about his artificial stone. Coughing into his fist to regain composure, he casually asks about the price of local inns, learning that a single night costs around 10,000 pi. He nods thoughtfully, quietly processing the staggering local inflation rate. Needing cash immediately, he abruptly slams his hand on the counter and offers to sell the diamond for 70,000 pi. The poor shopkeeper recoils in absolute shock, his eyes bulging as he stammers out the requested price. Frantically waving his hands, the merchant asks if Rizel is running a new charity business since he is practically giving the invaluable gem away. Realizing he severely underpriced the diamond, Rizel curses his luck, worrying he might actually get smitten by the heavens at this rate. An incredibly awkward silence settles over the counter as the exasperated shopkeeper buries his face in his hand. Recovering smoothly, Rizel suggests taking a 70,000 pi deposit instead, since the merchant clearly recognizes the diamond's true immense value. The shopkeeper happily agrees that a deposit will work, shaking the young hero's hand to officially seal the deal. Waving cheerfully from his storefront, the merchant thanks his bizarre new customer and warmly invites him to return. Stepping outside with a heavy sack of coins, Rizel breathes a sigh of relief, thankful to finally have some spending money in his pocket. Staring out at the sprawling city, he braces himself for a tough road ahead, completely aware that both alchemy and currency here are woefully unadvanced. Arriving in the downtown district, Rizel secures a room at Marie's Inn for 7,000 pi a night. He lets out a heavy sigh, admitting to himself that he is completely exhausted. Collapsing onto the bed, he groans about ending up in such an unbelievable place. He decides it is time to calm down and properly reassess his current situation. Thinking back on the goddess, he questions the summoning magic and notes the massive gap in this world's magical development. Sitting up abruptly, he begins to heavily doubt whether he was actually transported to another world at all. Seeking concrete answers, he extends his hand and initiates quantum motion analysis magic. A complex holographic grid materializes before him, leaving him completely stunned. Analyzing the data, he discovers entirely unknown materials and fundamental differences in the local laws of physics. He slumps his shoulders, finally accepting the undeniable proof that this is indeed a completely different reality. He logically deduces that the king exiling him must have been entirely outside the self-proclaimed goddess's plans. Lying back down, he wonders if simply defeating the demon lord will be enough to satisfy her demands. He realizes he doesn't even know what a demon lord is since they didn't exist in his previous world. Trying to picture the enemy, he imagines a narcissistic, magic-wielding thug leading a demonic monarchy. He dismisses the childish mental image, accepting that his previous world's logic likely doesn't apply here. Pondering the situation further, he realizes that establishing a monarchy requires a high level of intelligence and order. This train of thought leads him to the startling possibility that the demons of this world might not actually be evil. Acknowledging his total ignorance of global affairs, he reminds himself that the humans certainly won't support him after his exile. A new resolve washes over him as he formulates a completely unconventional plan. Sitting up with a determined expression, he decides his best move is to go meet the Demon Lord directly. Before setting out, he pauses to wonder if his old magic will still function exactly as it used to. Extending his finger, he confidently initiates his advanced storage magic. He smiles in relief as a glowing, intricate digital portal flawlessly materializes right in front of him. He deploys a small recon satellite equipped with a printer, sending it into the sky to survey the surrounding terrain. Watching the drone float away, he confirms that his equipment works perfectly without any magical interference. He commands the device to scan the continent and create a map leading straight to the Demon Lord's castle. Waiting for the scan to finish, he decides to close his eyes and take a very short nap. Time passes peacefully as birds flutter over the quiet cobblestone streets of the downtown district. Rizel groggily rubs his eyes as he finally wakes up from his rest. He realizes with mild embarrassment that he accidentally slept straight through the night until morning. The humming satellite successfully finishes printing out a highly detailed topographical map. Reactivating his storage magic, he securely collects the freshly printed scroll. A sudden, faint presence nearby immediately puts him on high alert. He deploys high detection magic, revealing the ominous silhouettes of multiple armed men crouching outside his window. Hacking into their magical voice transmission, he swiftly confirms that there are exactly 5 targets surrounding him. Listening to their hushed chatter, he wonders if these creeping assassins were directly dispatched by the furious king. Ignoring the danger, he casually steps out of his room and heads down the hallway. He swiftly navigates the inn's wooden staircase and steps out into the morning light. The hidden assassins spy on him from the rooftops, confirming he is the exact same hero who was banished yesterday. Strolling down a narrow alleyway, Rizel grimly accepts that he has completely made an enemy out of the kingdom's ruler. Crouching in the shadows, the assassins quietly confirm over their comms that everyone is in position. They coldly review their mission to assassinate the target and sever his head as physical proof for their employer. Unbeknownst to them, Rizel easily intercepts their transmission and realizes that a hit squad is actively targeting him. Rather than panicking, he smiles and decides to use these amateur killers to his own advantage. Believing the area is completely clear, the masked assassins give the final order to execute their deadly ambush. A hidden sniper swiftly raises a blowgun to his lips and fires a silent dart at the unsuspecting hero. As the dart pierces his neck, Rizel analyzes the weak toxin and notes it is merely designed to render him unconscious in seconds. Feigning total defeat, he lets out a dramatic groan and collapses heavily to his knees. Convinced their trap was a success, the assassins declare the target neutralized and prepare to claim their bloody prize. Before the blades can reach him, Rizel suddenly activates a swift movement spell to break their encirclement. Moving at blinding speeds, he unleashes a devastating wave of lightning magic upon the ambushing squad. A violent electrical discharge instantly engulfs the masked men, completely overpowering their senses in a blinding flash. Standing victoriously over the paralyzed assassins, he casually tells them to sleep for a little bit. Reaching his arm deep into his glowing spatial inventory, he begins searching for a very specific item. He triumphantly pulls out a multifunctional stem cell, a rare item he previously shelved after failing to create viable combat clones. He cunningly deduces that while the useless clone cannot fight, it will perfectly serve as a fake corpse to fool his enemies. Holding the orb forward, he activates cellular differentiation to rapidly grow a perfect physical copy of himself. He quickly dresses the lifeless clone and meticulously replicates the blow dart wound on its neck to ensure the illusion is utterly flawless. The fabricated corpse is left sprawling on the cold cobblestones directly in the center of the defeated hit squad. Dusting off his hands, Rizel notes that his area recovery magic will soon wake the assassins up so they can find their supposed prize. He sighs in mild annoyance at the unwanted business that briefly interrupted his quiet morning. Shifting his focus back to his true objective, he prepares to finally travel straight into the Demon Lord's territory. Back in the alleyway, the defeated assassins slowly groan and twitch as they regain their stolen consciousness. Rubbing their aching heads, the thoroughly confused men wonder if the target's automatic defense magic was what knocked them out. Panic suddenly sets in as the disoriented killers frantically search the area for their missing victim. Spotting the unmoving body on the ground, they stare in grim satisfaction and declare the target dead. Angered by the unexpected struggle, one assassin violently curses the supposedly dead mage for wasting so much of their time. The dull, lifeless eyes of the clone stare blankly at the alley wall, perfectly selling the illusion of a successful assassination. Ordering his men to sever the head, the squad leader prepares to return to the king with their gruesome evidence. A swift blade cleanly decapitates the dummy corpse, leaving a bloody mess in the shadowy alleyway. The headless clone is left abandoned on the stone path as the assassins quickly depart with their prize. Meanwhile, a massive and imposing stone fortress looms ominously against the backdrop of a bright full moon. Arriving at the foreboding gates, Rizel looks up and confirms that he has successfully reached the Demon Lord's castle. Two heavily armored guards equipped with demonic horns stand watchfully in front of the colossal iron entrance. The guards violently flinch in shock and immediately command the approaching intruder to halt. Crossing their sharp spears, the aggressive sentries furiously demand to know what business a lowly human has at their stronghold. Completely unfazed by their hostility, Rizel casually asks if they can guide him to the Demon Lord for a quick chat. The two guards stare at him in utter silence, completely paralyzed by his absurdly polite and suicidal request. Snapping out of their stupor, they angrily scream that a human cannot just request an audience with their terrifying ruler. Bowing slightly with a calm smile, Rizel sincerely apologizes for his incredibly sudden and uninvited visit. Taken aback by the refusal, Rizel calmly suggests making a formal appointment instead, leaving the armored guard utterly bewildered. Waving his spears defensively, the guard furiously points out Rizel's heroic attire and screams that they will never allow a human to simply schedule a meeting with their ruler. Unfazed by the hostility, Rizel freely admits his heroic status but quickly clarifies that the human king actually exiled him. The aggressive guard visibly falters, his spear dipping slightly as he stammers out his confusion over the unexpected exile. Pressing his advantage, Rizel casually mentions surviving a royal assassination attempt that very morning, shocking the sentries even further. Flashing a disarming smile, he reasons that after such severe betrayal, it makes perfect sense for a human to defect to the demon faction. Gripping his weapon tightly, the guard furiously rejects the logic and reveals that a past-summoned hero used that exact same deception to betray them. Rizel sighs deeply, realizing his diplomatic approach is completely ruined because someone else already exploited the enemy of my enemy strategy. Staring down the stubborn guards, he briefly considers using brainwashing magic to force his way inside. Deciding against outright mind control, he points a finger upward and pivots to a completely different line of questioning. Gesturing toward a distant spire, he boldly insults the fortress's magical defenses by calling the teleportation barrier at its peak a pathetic excuse for a ward. The guard grits his fangs in sheer outrage, deeply offended that a mere human would mock their magical security. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the sentry furiously defends the omnipotent barrier that the Demon Lord personally constructed. The second guard suddenly panics, desperately trying to silence his partner before he reveals too much confidential information. A victorious smirk spreads across Rizel's face as he sarcastically thanks the hot-headed guard for the free intel. Brushing his hair aside, he confidently locks his sights on the exact location of the Demon Lord based on the guard's slip-up. The loud-mouthed guard slumps in absolute despair, realizing he just accidentally gave away their ruler's precise location. Recovering his bravado, the guard smugly challenges the human to attempt breaching the supposedly impenetrable anti-teleportation field. Shrugging off the taunt, Rizel casually accepts the challenge and begins channeling his own mana. Intricate magical rings materialize around his feet as he calmly states that such a weak barrier doesn't even require advanced teleportation spells to bypass. Flashing a final, confident grin, his body begins to dissolve into streams of digital light right before their eyes. The guards stare in absolute horror, their jaws dropping as the impossible magic activates flawlessly. Surrounded by swirling rings of data, Rizel smoothly dematerializes into the digital ether. Left guarding an empty courtyard, the sentries stammer in sheer disbelief at the intruder's sudden and complete disappearance. A brilliant streak of fragmented light shoots directly toward the highest tower of the dark castle. The digital fragments seamlessly reassemble his physical form as he easily breaches the defensive perimeter. Stepping out of the light, he finalizes the spatial jump without breaking a single sweat. Scanning the dimly lit, lavish interior, he confirms he has successfully infiltrated the Demon Lord's private chambers. His expression hardens with sharp determination as he prepares to confront humanity's greatest enemy. To his absolute surprise, a small, unassuming girl in a dark dress suddenly turns to face him. The tiny Demon Lord stares at him with wide, innocent eyes, leaving Rizel completely speechless as she demands to know who he is. Staring in absolute shock at the sudden intruder, the young Demon Lord aggressively demands to know his identity. She points an accusatory finger at Rizel, completely bewildered by his unexpected appearance in her private chambers. Analyzing her magical signature, Rizel notes that she possesses roughly 100 times more magical power and decent physical strength compared to the gate guards. Panicking, she questions if he is human and frantically wonders how her flawless teleportation barrier failed to keep him out. Rizel casually confirms that she was indeed the one who set up the defensive ward. Tilting his head slightly, he asks if the small, flustered girl standing before him is actually the feared demon lord. She proudly confirms her title but immediately demands to know why a stranger has suddenly breached her sanctuary. Raising a hand in a peaceful gesture, Rizel sincerely apologizes for passing through her barrier without prior permission. While she stammers in disbelief that he bypassed the ward without destroying it, Rizel politely explains he didn't want to ruin something she worked so hard to create. The demon lord suddenly flinches, her eyes widening in realization as she processes his unbelievable magical feat. Sweating nervously, she intensely studies him, desperately trying to figure out his true identity and underlying motives. Placing a respectful hand over his heart, Rizel prepares to formally introduce himself to the wary ruler. He introduces himself as a summoned hero who was exiled by his own king, clarifying that he currently sides with neither humanity nor the demons. Looking her dead in the eye, he explains that he simply came to ask her some questions about the fundamental nature of this world. The atmosphere suddenly grows heavy as Rizel narrows his eyes and asks one final time if she is truly the demon lord. The shadowy aura around the young ruler thickens as she scoffs at the absurd notion of a summoned hero dropping by just to chat. Snapping from the sheer disrespect, she furiously screams at him to stop messing with her. Realizing his diplomatic approach has failed spectacularly, Rizel sweats nervously as a massive, hostile magic circle illuminates the room. He swiftly raises a finger to counter the incoming magical assault. A blinding explosion rocks the grand chamber as their immense magical energies violently collide. Emerging from the smoke, the furious demon lord lunges directly at him with a devastating strike. Effortlessly blocking her aggressive assault with a single finger, Rizel laments that he has no physical proof of his exile to calm her down. Pushed back by his defense, the demon lord smirks fiercely and praises his unexpected combat competence. Standing amidst the floating debris, Rizel sighs heavily and wonders how to de-escalate the chaotic situation. The heavy doors suddenly burst open as two royal guards rush into the throne room to protect their sovereign. The guards freeze in their tracks, staring in absolute terror at the unknown human casually standing in their master's domain. The demon lord desperately warns her subordinates to stay back, admitting that her strongest attacks couldn't even scratch him. As the male guard bravely rallies his partner to eliminate the intruder, Rizel quickly calculates that their combined strength is nearly equal to the demon lord's. He logically deduces that slaughtering her loyal guards would instantly trigger a full-scale war, completely destroying any chance of a peaceful negotiation. Acknowledging that his next move might be perceived as incredibly threatening, he slowly raises his hand toward the charging guards. He unleashes a sudden, invisible wave of oppressive magical force that instantly targets the two sentries. He coldly resolves to demonstrate his overwhelming superiority so they realize that peaceful dialogue is their only chance of survival. A razor-sharp flash of magical energy cleanly slices through the air, completely bypassing their physical defenses. The demon lord screams in absolute horror as she watches her loyal retainers fall victim to the brutal attack. The female guard stares blankly into the distance, completely paralyzed as a thin line of magical energy marks her throat. To their absolute bewilderment, the glowing magical strike passes harmlessly through their bodies without actually severing their heads. The male guard frantically touches his throat, completely stunned to find his skin perfectly intact and free of any fatal wounds. Trembling with leftover adrenaline, the guards stammer in utter confusion, absolutely certain they had just felt the chilling sensation of death. While the demon lord tearfully assumes he resurrected them, Rizel plainly states that he never intended to kill them in the first place. Lowering his hand, he casually tells the panicked ruler that she is completely overreacting to his harmless illusion. The two royal guards stand completely paralyzed in absolute terror, their eyes wide as they struggle to comprehend the impossible magic they just witnessed. Smirking at their sheer panic, Rizel casually asks the trembling guards if they really thought a little decapitation would kill them. Pointing an accusatory finger, the furious demon lord screams that there is absolutely no precedent for surviving decapitation and brands him a freak of nature. Completely unfazed by her outburst, Rizel calmly questions if her political duties have dulled her fundamental understanding of magic. The female guard furiously snaps back, fiercely declaring that her master earned the title of Demon Lord purely by being the absolute strongest. Sweating nervously, the Demon Lord quietly orders Sarina to stand down and stop defending her. Acknowledging his overwhelming power, she bluntly tells her loyal retainers that this strange human operates on a level completely beyond their common sense. The battered male guard steps forward to protest, desperate to fulfill his duty to protect the throne. Brushing past the tension, the demon lord glares down from her throne and reminds the intruder that he came specifically to gather information. Relaxing her posture slightly, she haughtily permits him to ask whatever questions he desires. A confident smile crosses Rizel's face as he notes how glad he is that she finally decided to cooperate. Chuckling with dark resignation, she openly admits to her guards that if this monster is truly an enemy, their only option is to surrender. She rationalizes that taking a gamble on peaceful negotiations is vastly superior to getting slaughtered in a one-sided massacre. Admitting she threw the first strike, she optimistically suggests that proper dialogue might actually turn this overwhelming threat into a valuable ally. Dismissing her battered retainers, she commands them to wait outside the chamber and assures them she will be fine. Letting out a relieved sigh, Rizel is thankful that the chaotic and violent misunderstanding has finally settled down. The two loyal guards share a long, hesitant look, clearly reluctant to abandon their ruler with such a dangerous intruder. Bowing deeply to their sovereign, they swallow their protests and obediently leave the grand chamber. The massive wooden doors slam shut, sealing the two impossibly strong mags inside. The heavy atmosphere of the throne room shifts as the young ruler prepares for the impending interrogation. Leaning forward with renewed composure, she formally thanks him for his mercy and invites him to present his inquiries. Rizel bluntly asks if the demons are rapidly expanding to dominate the human race, but she instantly shoots the rumor down as completely false. Taken aback by her immediate denial, he asks her to clarify what exactly is wrong with the kingdom's official narrative. Her eyes darken as she coldly states that absolutely everything about the human kingdom story is a lie. She drops a massive bombshell, revealing that the demon race has actually been steadily weakening for centuries while the humans mercilessly force brutal conditions upon them. Reaching into her robes, she casually tosses a sealed, rolled-up document directly at the bewildered hero. Easily catching the flying scroll, he inspects the heavy bindings and asks what it contains. Analyzing the magical signature, he is shocked to realize he is holding the original, magically bound peace treaty between the two warring races. She calmly confirms its authenticity as Rizel hesitates, wondering if she really wants him to see such highly classified intelligence. Breaking the royal seal, he swiftly unrolls the ancient parchment to read its true contents. His eyes dart across the page, quickly discovering heavily rigged clauses that grant humans complete immunity while actively subjugating the demon population. Thoroughly disgusted by the blatant oppression, he wonders how the supposedly terrifying demon race ever agreed to such an absurdly one-sided treaty. Her voice tinged with ancient sorrow, she explains that the previous demon king was brutally assassinated by a past summoned hero. She explains the brutal mechanics of their society, detailing how the sudden death of their absolute strongest ruler completely shattered their power structure. With their greatest champion dead, the remaining demons were completely helpless against the overwhelming might of the human summoned hero. Gritting her fangs, she reveals that the past hero held her life hostage to force the entire demon race into absolute submission. Gripping the oppressive treaty tightly, Rizel's expression darkens as he finally understands the true, ugly nature of this world's political landscape. A sudden, glaring inconsistency in the timeline strikes him, causing his eyes to widen in confusion. Holding his chin in deep thought, he questions why the goddess would bother summoning a new batch of heroes if humanity already possessed a champion capable of subjugating the demon lord. Desperate to solve this massive puzzle, he turns back to the young ruler and asks permission to verify one final, crucial piece of information. Breaking the silence, a pointed question is asked regarding whether the previously mentioned hero is still alive today. Handing over an item with a brief word of thanks, the summoned man wonders out loud why he was brought here, admitting he would have destroyed the contract if not for his current circumstances. Confirming his identity while questioning the relevance, he is abruptly reminded that he was supposed to be an exiled man. Taken aback by the sudden mention of death, he is bluntly told that luck is the only reason he barely escaped with his life. The grim truth is finally unveiled as his companion declares that he was only summoned to this world to serve as a sacrifice. Staring intently, the man remains perfectly silent as the heavy weight of the conversation hangs in the air. Breaking the tension, the demon bluntly reveals that people like the summoned hero are merely treated as sacrifices. Taken aback by the dark terminology, the hero repeats the word in pure disbelief. Regaining his composure, he firmly asks the demon to explain this disturbing situation in greater detail. The demon lord begins his explanation, tracing the grim history back 600 years to the very first summoning of a hero. He explains that the original hero was incredibly weak, proving to be absolutely no match against the 4 heavenly kings or the parents of Jack and Serena. Disappointed by this failure, the human leaders commanded the goddess to bring stronger heroes, though subsequent summons yielded similarly disappointing results. Shocked by how quickly the hero grasps the complex history, the Demon Lord confirms the grim sequence of events leading to the present. Pondering the advanced magic involved in this cycle, the hero questions if someone from this world could have actually created such a tool. Connecting the dots in his head, he sharply asks if the goddess herself forged the device. The Demon Lord confirms his suspicion with absolute certainty. He reveals that the resulting combined hero possessed power that completely dwarfed the Demon Lord of that specific era. Unveiling the sinister cycle, he explains that new heroes are continuously summoned to fight and grow, only to be absorbed by the combined hero to stack the odds against the demons. Through this ruthless and repeating cycle of absorption, the combined hero has grown leagues stronger than its original form. The hero finds the human's paranoid justification of endlessly building a stronger weapon surprisingly easy to imagine. Concluding his grim tale, the Demon Lord states that this is the full truth behind the summonings. Processing the revelation, the hero realizes his true enemies are the goddess and the combined hero, effectively ruining his original plan to extort a favor from her. Scowling at the betrayal, he decides all bets are off since she intended to turn her supposed helper into a mere sacrifice. He stews in silent anger while formulating his next strategic move against the deceitful deity. Breaking the silence, he confidently declares his intention to verify the Demon Lord's story for himself. Unfazed by the skepticism, the Demon Lord casually permits him to investigate. Tapping into his advanced magic, the hero initiates a satellite analysis to gather concrete evidence. Watching the intricate spellwork, the Demon Lord recognizes it as detection magic but wonders about its true scale and purpose. Arcane energy pulses rapidly across the landscape as the hero's scanning magic sweeps directly toward the royal palace. Analyzing the scan results, the hero observes with disgust that the souls within the palace no longer resemble anything human. He confirms the Demon Lord's honesty, having successfully detected traces of both the magic tool and the combined hero. As the hero casually brushes off the feat, the Demon Lord stammers in utter disbelief at his ability to scout the heavily fortified palace so effortlessly. Exasperated by the absurd display of power, the Demon Lord begs the hero to put a limit on his impossible, high-level abilities. Feeling somewhat redundant, the Demon Lord asks if the hero even needed him considering his omniscient scouting skills. The hero graciously admits that without the Demon Lord's tip, he never would have known to search the palace in the first place. Stepping closer, the hero emphasizes the absolute importance of their fateful meeting. He offers genuine gratitude for the intel, acknowledging that he would have otherwise remained ignorant of his impending doom as a sacrifice. Flustered by the sincere thanks, the Demon Lord stammers that providing the information was nothing special. The hero mentally strategizes how to corner the goddess into sending him home, noting that taking the combined hero hostage would leave his new demon ally in a tight spot. A sudden spark of inspiration hits him as he formulates the perfect plan. He suddenly calls out to the Demon Lord, startling him to attention. Staring intently, the hero begins to pose a very serious question. With a confident smirk, he asks if the Demon Lord wants the honor of defeating the combined hero with his own hands. The Demon Lord's expression hardens as he declares it his lifelong wish to destroy the murderer of his ancestors and the architect of their suffering. Without a single shred of hesitation, he accepts the offer to finally take his revenge. Sealing their unexpected alliance, the Demon Lord firmly declares that their agreement is settled. Offering a tempting proposition, the hero promises to personally guide the Demon Lord and grant him enough power to surpass the combined hero. Staring in disbelief, the Demon Lord asks why his new companion is willing to go to such extraordinary lengths for his sake. Explaining his true motive, the hero reveals his desperate desire to return home, which requires him to corner the goddess into negotiations. Processing this revelation, the Demon Lord realizes that their alliance is mutually beneficial. A sudden wave of doubt washes over the Demon Lord as he wonders where he should even begin to reach the combined hero's staggering power level. The hero confidently asserts that the Demon Lord can reach that level through sheer effort, noting that the combined hero currently only possesses a fifth of his own strength. Sweating nervously, the Demon Lord points out that achieving a fifth of the hero's absurd power is much easier said than done. Unfazed by the doubt, the hero challenges the Demon Lord, reminding him that he is supposedly the strongest of his entire race. The hero reassures him that everything will work out as long as he follows instructions, promising to identify his weaknesses and teach him how to compensate for them. Groaning under the pressure, the Demon Lord listens as the hero asks if he can envision himself claiming victory with that much guidance. Steeling his resolve, the Demon Lord accepts the harsh terms, deciding to trust his unlikely mentor. Bowing slightly, he earnestly asks the hero to guide him. Noting the shift in determination, the hero acknowledges that a firm choice has been made. The Demon Lord frantically begs for moderation as the hero cheerfully warns him to prepare for an utterly ruthless, Spartan-style training regimen. Pausing mid-thought, a sudden realization strikes the hero. He turns back and asks if there is a suitable location where they can safely conduct their training. Eager to gauge his new student's abilities, the hero suggests initiating a simulation battle to test his current combat level. Thinking carefully, the Demon Lord recalls a proper training spot located a few kilometers away from their current position. Pinpointing the exact location in his mind, the Demon Lord casually mentions that it is pretty far, prompting the hero to take matters into his own hands. Reaching out without warning, the hero orders his companion to hold on tight. Flustered by the sudden physical contact, the Demon Lord stammers as the hero confirms they will be flying together. Panic sets in as the Demon Lord desperately tries to explain that he is not entirely ready for takeoff. A violent burst of magical propulsion launches them into the sky before the Demon Lord can finish his sentence. The two blur across the landscape at breakneck speeds, tearing through the atmosphere like a comet. Touching down abruptly, the Demon Lord wheezes and glares at his reckless instructor. Fighting back severe nausea, the dizzy Demon Lord marvels at the sheer magical power required to transport them in a mere flash. Brushing off his motion sickness, he turns his attention to a strange magic item the hero pulls out, resigning himself to constant surprises. The hero activates a tool designed to create a phantom world, explaining that it masks their true actions with an illusion of healthy exercise to any outside observers. He smugly assures the Demon Lord that nobody will witness his inevitable, crushing defeat thanks to the magical barrier. Scowling at the backhanded reassurance, the Demon Lord sarcastically thanks him for the trashy illusion effects. Shifting into a combat stance, the hero declares that the time for idle chit-chat is officially over. Rising to the challenge, the Demon Lord confirms his absolute readiness. He firmly vows to go all out and hold nothing back in this upcoming clash. The hero coolly accepts the challenge and formally initiates the simulation battle. Analyzing the situation, the Demon Lord rapidly strategizes whether he should forcefully stop incoming magic or carefully deflect it. He concludes that deflecting the attacks in another direction would be the most optimal defensive maneuver. His tactical planning is instantly shattered when he realizes his opponent has completely vanished from sight. Sensing the hero's mana dispersing into the air, the Demon Lord desperately tries to focus, deducing that the hero must concentrate his magic in one spot the exact moment he strikes. An abrupt spike in magical pressure triggers his instincts, warning him of an imminent, devastating attack. Spotting movement, the Demon Lord wildly calls out a direction as she tracks her elusive opponent. The hero suddenly materializes before her in a blur of rapid motion. Stunned by the unexpected attack, she stammers in total confusion as a strange object bounces off her. Looking down at the projectile, she blankly realizes she was just hit by a simple sports ball. Rubbing her stinging head, she groans and notes that the seemingly harmless object actually hurt quite a bit. A voice suddenly echoes in her mind, challenging her to dodge the ball before it vanishes in exactly 3 seconds. Shocked by his use of telepathy, she frantically processes his absurd demand to evade the fast-moving projectile. She lets out a confused sound as the hero casually adds that body strengthening is the only magic he is currently using. Infuriated by his condescending tone, she glares while the hero smugly remarks about the satisfying sound the ball made and his eagerness to see her fight seriously. Steeling her resolve, she fiercely vows that she will absolutely dodge the incoming attack. The ball suddenly rockets toward her at terrifying speeds, leaving a violent trail of sheer kinetic force in its wake. She spectacularly fails to evade and takes a brutal hit right to the face, crying out in immense pain. A relentless barrage of high-speed attacks forces her into a frantic, desperate dance of evasion. Pushed to her absolute physical limit, she tightly braces herself against the overwhelming assault. Catching her breath, she realizes with a glimmer of hope that she is somehow managing to effectively block his strikes. The hero calmly praises her defensive efforts before instructing her to unleash her best defensive magic to test her true firepower. Processing the new instructions, she hesitates for a brief moment as she prepares to launch her magical counterattack. She initially assumes she is adapting to the fight, but quickly deduces that Rizel has actually been deliberately dropping his speed. A wave of dread washes over her as she considers the terrifying possibility that his immense speed never actually changed at all. Exhaling a sharp breath, she adjusts her battle strategy and decides to prioritize pinpoint accuracy over raw explosive firepower. Immense magical energy begins to rapidly pool around her as she fiercely concentrates her full power into a single devastating strike. Unleashing her pent-up mana, a massive blast of concentrated magical force violently erupts outward. Recognizing the incoming flame cannon as a potential threat, Rizel calmly decides to raise a simple defensive barrier just in case it connects. The blazing magical attack violently closes the distance, instantly illuminating the entire battlefield in a blinding flash. Pouring every ounce of her remaining strength into the desperate attack, she roars for the blast to hit its mark. A colossal explosion detonates upon impact, sending massive shockwaves ripping through the surrounding terrain. Panting heavily from sheer magical exhaustion, she eagerly watches the clearing smoke and breathlessly asks how her attack fared. As the dust finally settles, a completely unfazed Rizel stands silently amidst the smoking destruction, closely assessing the damage. Staring at his shimmering magical defenses, Rizel expresses genuine shock that her desperate attack actually managed to damage his barrier. Panting heavily from the sheer exhaustion of her attack, the Demon Lord stares in disbelief at the settling dust. Gasping for air, she frantically asks how her desperate strike held up against his defenses. Staring at his shattered magical defense, Rizel marvels internally that she managed to overpower a three-dimensional barrier using only two-dimensional magic and raw mana. Completely drained from the massive exertion, the Demon Lord suddenly loses her balance and begins to collapse forward. Staggering into his arms, she triumphantly declares that she actually managed to land a hit on him. Catching her gently, Rizel praises her tremendous effort while silently wondering what kind of catastrophic firepower she could unleash with advanced magic. Realizing he isn't even fighting seriously, she frantically begs for a moment to catch her breath before the next grueling drill begins. Exhausted from the high-speed skirmish, the two warriors sit down on the dirt to take a brief, well-deserved rest. Recovering her energy, she impatiently asks what he meant by testing a barrier next. Standing back up, Rizel instructs her to hit the magical shield he is about to raise with her absolute strongest spell. She hesitates instantly, warning him that unleashing her full power might completely obliterate the surrounding area. Unfazed by her grave warning, the hero calmly assures her that there is absolutely nothing to worry about. Manifesting a complex, glowing magical shield, he explains that this specific barrier is perfectly designed to absorb any incoming attack. Acknowledging his command, she readies her stance while mentally cursing the sheer, irregular absurdity of his magical prowess. Channeling every ounce of her dark mana, the Demon Lord fiercely unleashes her ultimate, full-strength attack. A colossal beam of pure, destructive energy violently erupts from her hands and smashes directly into the magical shield. The blinding light of the immense attack slowly fades, leaving a dense, lingering cloud of smoke in its wake. Staring in pure disbelief at the dissipating smoke, she realizes his shield effortlessly absorbed the entire blast without breaking. Dropping her hands to her sides, she looks completely crestfallen as the massive gap in their power becomes painfully obvious. Coolly assessing the underwhelming aftermath, Rizel bluntly asks if that was truly the absolute limit of her power. Stinging from the mild insult, she defensively snaps back and apologizes sarcastically for failing to meet his absurd expectations. He quickly reassures the sulking Demon Lord that there is no need to feel down, as her display made one vital thing perfectly clear to him. Looking up with a mixture of curiosity and lingering frustration, she immediately asks what exactly he figured out. Pausing mid-sentence, Rizel awkwardly realizes he hasn't even asked for her name yet, prompting her to sigh heavily at his absent-mindedness. Formally introducing herself as Demon Lord Mersha, she humbly requests his aid in destroying the combined hero. Accepting her formal plea, Rizel thanks her for the sincerity and reiterates that she shouldn't be discouraged by her current weakness. He analyzes that while her raw magical power is monstrous, her spell formation technique is deeply flawed, prompting her to beg for a simpler explanation. Drawing a diagram in the dirt, he breaks down the mechanics of magic, explaining how mana capacity, output control, and formation complexity combine to dictate overall power. Using a dragon as an example, he explains that humans can easily overcome massive gaps in raw mana by mastering precise magic control and complex spell formulas. Pointing out her naturally high magic output, he assures her she has incredible growth potential, leaving Mersha wide-eyed at the prospect of gaining such immense power. Getting straight to the actual curriculum, he declares that her first lesson will be mastering three-dimensional magic, a concept that immediately confuses her. Realizing she has never even heard of the advanced concept, he sighs in exhaustion at yet another massive cultural difference between their worlds. He explains that her current two-dimensional formations strictly limit her to a single spell output, whereas three-dimensional magic offers limitless tactical potential. Grasping the terrifying implications, she realizes her magic could be expanded infinitely, which Rizel confirms with an approving nod. Feeling entirely overwhelmed by the sheer complexity, she severely doubts her ability to learn such advanced techniques since she cannot even use basic analytical spells. Brushing off her anxious concerns, he reveals that he wasn't born with these skills either and actually developed a specific training method to master them. Before they can officially begin their training, Mersha raises her hand to ask one final, burning question. Narrowing her eyes in deep suspicion, she asks why he is bothering to train her when he could easily hunt down the combined hero all by himself. Holding up two fingers, Rizel explains that his first reason is simply to express his immense gratitude for her revealing the dark truth of his summoning. Smiling confidently, he reveals his second motive is to recruit her as a permanent party member and bring her back to his own world once she is finally strong enough. Flustered by the sudden invitation, Mersha stammers and asks him to explain exactly what his proposal entails. Rizel reveals he traveled to this world to recruit a worthy ally to help defeat an unbeatable opponent, prompting Mersha to doubt her own strength. Dismissing her insecurities, Rizel confidently asserts that their recent simulation battle proved the exact opposite of her doubts. Pointing at her with absolute certainty, he declares that he has completely confirmed she is the perfect candidate for his team. Acknowledging that asking the Demon Lord to abandon her post might be impossible, he is pleasantly surprised when she immediately agrees to go with him. Noting her reliable nature, he accepts her thanks while she firmly insists that she despises owing favors for what feels like free help. Turning the conversation toward a new request, she announces that she has something important to ask him in return. She reveals that her younger sister, whom she wishes to make a Demon Lord candidate, is suffering from a mysterious illness that constantly weakens her body. Hoping he can examine and cure the strange affliction, Mersha is momentarily disappointed when Rizel admits that medical issues fall outside of his expertise. Despite his lack of medical knowledge, he agrees to do whatever he can without making promises, prompting Mersha to beam with immense gratitude. Eager to hurry back to her sister's room beneath the throne room, she groans dizzyingly as Rizel prepares to fly them straight to the palace and warns her not to vomit. Launching into the sky, the two violently tear through the atmosphere with a massive burst of magical propulsion. A sudden, violent distortion in space-time rips directly into the palace interior as they aggressively breach the heavily guarded perimeter. The explosive entry clears to reveal the two warriors standing amidst the settling dust inside a luxurious royal bedroom. Startled by the chaotic intrusion, a frail girl named Cecil stammers in shock as she watches her older sister awkwardly trying to stand on her own. Apologizing for the sudden surprise, Rizel steps forward while Cecil frantically asks her sister how a stranger bypassed the supposedly perfect palace barriers. Striking a dramatic and proud pose, Mersha formally addresses her younger sister to introduce her new companion. Gesturing wildly, she excitedly introduces the absurdly strong Rizel as an otherworldly warrior who completely dismantled her ultimate magical barriers like they were nothing. Sweating awkwardly at the wildly enthusiastic introduction, Rizel admits he is a bit embarrassed while Cecil stares in awe at the incredible man. Calming down, Mersha gently explains that she brought him here hoping he might possess a way to finally cure Cecil's lingering illness. Surprised by the sudden topic, Cecil questions her sister about her mysterious illness. Mersha gently urges her sister to let the stranger examine her, noting that even just discovering the root cause would be incredibly helpful. Trusting her older sister's judgment entirely, Cecil politely agrees to the medical examination. Watching the brief exchange, Rizel silently notes the immense trust the frail girl places in her sibling. Turning back to the hero, Mersha excitedly commands him to proceed with the checkup. After Mersha begs him to be gentle, Rizel introduces himself to the nervous girl and promises the process will be over in seconds. Completing his rapid scan, Rizel diagnoses her crippling condition as hardened mana veins. He explains that the symptom causes abnormally sticky mana, which severely restricts the magical output within her internal circuits. Sweating nervously, Mersha asks if the strange affliction is difficult to treat. Rizel reassures them that it is a common ailment in his world and presents an artificial nanovirus capsule designed to permanently smooth out her mana flow. Stunned by the miraculous claim, Mersha excitedly marvels that a single dose will last an entire lifetime. Trembling with hope, Cecil accepts the tiny capsule as Rizel instructs her to swallow it. Before taking the medicine, the young girl glances nervously at her older sister for a final bit of reassurance. Mersha offers a warm, confident smile, urging her sister to put her full faith in the hero. Stealing her resolve, Cecil places the advanced medical capsule directly into her mouth. With a gentle gulp, she successfully swallows the strange pill. She exhales softly as the nanovirus medicine finally goes down. Mersha frantically asks if the cure worked, but Cecil admits she feels absolutely no different yet. Panicking immediately, Mersha angrily demands an explanation, forcing an exasperated Rizel to remind her that he clearly stated the effects take a few days to manifest. Annoyed by her total lack of patience, he casually asks if they mind him artificially advancing Cecil's body forward by a few days. Receiving their frantic approval, Rizel unleashes a localized temporal spell to rapidly skip about a week of internal time. Checking her own body, Cecil excitedly reports that the flow of mana inside her feels completely different and perfectly smooth. Mersha's face lights up with pure, unadulterated joy as she excitedly confirms the miraculous recovery. Watching the two sisters embrace in tearful celebration, Rizel sighs in quiet relief, glad to have permanently crossed one major problem off their list. Taking a deep breath, Cecil focuses her magic and prepares to cast a spell. Magical energy bursts from her hands, enveloping a nearby vase in a bright glow. The vase magically crumbles into its base minerals, prompting Cecil to cheer wildly at her perfect success. Observing the flawless execution, Rizel notes that she can now cast high-level spells without breaking a single sweat. Overjoyed by her newfound magical fluency, Cecil marvels at the ease of the spell as her sister bursts into tears of relief. Handing her a tissue to wipe her nose, Mersha openly sobs in overwhelming gratitude that her sister's supposedly incurable disease is finally cured. Rizel explains that the disease was caused by bad manasterol, an element everyone inherently possesses, and that his medicine clears it out to drastically improve overall magic flow. Revealing the strategic value of the cure, he offers to instantly power up the entire demon army by giving the medicine to all of their troops. Stunned by the generous offer, Mersha questions if such an advanced medicine can even be mass-produced in this world. Rizel casually admits that he has a massive surplus sitting in his dimensional storage, having originally manufactured the cure to help impoverished children. Dismissing the bizarre origin of the massive stockpile, Mersha eagerly accepts any strategic help she can get her hands on. Smiling softly, the otherworldly hero expresses genuine gladness that his surplus medicine can be put to such excellent use. Mersha excitedly sprints out of the room to distribute the miracle cure to her troops, leaving Cecil alone to bring up the serious topic of her sister becoming his companion. Rizel offers a brief, solemn confirmation regarding his plan to recruit the current demon lord. Looking down with a heavy heart, the young girl warns him that pulling her sister away from her duties will be incredibly difficult. She explains that Mersha is the absolute pillar of their nation's strength, adding a quiet confession that she will also be incredibly lonely without her. Acknowledging the heavy burden of leadership and family ties, Rizel softly agrees with her honest assessment. Despite her personal feelings, Cecil firmly declares that she will not stand in their way if he truly needs her sister, and Mersha agrees to go. Stealing her resolve, the freshly cured girl vows to work tirelessly to cover her sister's immense share of responsibilities. Impressed by her sudden surge of determination, Rizel smiles and praises the young girl's newfound reliability. Shifting the conversation toward practical matters, he bluntly asks if she has any actual experience in governing a nation. Blushing in deep embarrassment, Cecil rubs the back of her head and admits she has absolutely zero political experience. Taking her lack of experience in stride, Rizel realizes he has the perfect tool to solve this exact problem. He pulls out an advanced educational magic item called an A-simulator, explaining that it can instantly implant the knowledge of countless experts directly into her mind. As he begins tinkering with the bizarre device, Mersha suddenly bursts back into the room to announce she has finished distributing the medicine. Noticing the strange atmosphere, the older sister curiously asks what is going on as Cecil warmly welcomes her back. Glancing up from the glowing machinery, Rizel smugly notes that the demon lord has returned at the absolute perfect time. He calmly informs her that he intends to extract her memories, a request she initially accepts without a second thought. A moment of complete, stunned silence passes as her brain finally processes his absurd demand. Snapping out of her daze, Mersha furiously screams in shock at the prospect of having her memories ripped from her head. Raising a hand to calm her down, Rizel quickly clarifies that the A-simulator will only copy her vast political experiences without erasing anything. Realizing it is simply a magic item that converts her memories into educational material, she watches nervously as he instructs her to place the strange device on her head. Praising her quick comprehension, Rizel seamlessly slots a blank memory crystal directly into the advanced headgear. Exhaling a heavy sigh of absolute defeat, Mersha questions what on earth he is actually made of to possess such ridiculous technological power. Brushing off her shock as a simple gap in civilization levels, he checks the final settings and asks if she is fully ready to begin. Complimenting her firm resolve, he watches as she tightly braces herself and shouts for him to activate the machine. A mechanical voice confirms the crystal setup is complete, prompting Rizel to officially begin the extraction process. Glowing data streams light up the room as the machine smoothly initiates the memory import sequence. The complex extraction process operates in complete silence as Mersha's vast leadership experience flows directly into the crystal. The mechanical voice suddenly chimes out, announcing that the import is successful and the specialized leadership simulator is fully complete. Announcing the completion of his task, Rizel states that a single use should be sufficient while Mersha asks if it is finally over. Instructing the young girl, Rizel tells Cecil to press the red magic stone in the center of the device, prompting her nervous compliance. The strange mechanical device suddenly hums to life as intricate magical circuits begin to glow brilliantly across its surface. Staring in pure awe, Cecil marvels as a glowing holographic screen abruptly projects itself into the air. Examining a simulated crisis regarding last year's famine, she considers the provided materials and selects the third option to solve the situation. Her confidence immediately drops as the simulator bleakly informs her that the crisis did not improve at all. Recalculating her leadership strategy, she nervously selects the second option to see if it yields a better outcome. She cheers enthusiastically as the screen flashes a bright confirmation that her second choice was the absolute best solution. Smiling proudly, Mersha mentions that they actually implemented that exact same solution during the real historical crisis. Cecil excitedly praises her older sister, expressing deep admiration for Mersha's brilliant and proven leadership. Rizel smugly points out that this immersive method is how she will earn vital experience, which Cecil eagerly confirms is incredibly helpful. Turning to her sister with newfound resolve, Cecil vows to do her absolute best to master the political simulator. She silently promises to master these critical skills for the sake of their nation's present stability and its inevitable future. Mersha warmly encourages her younger sister, firmly stating that she will be relying on her from now on. Time abruptly skips forward to the very next day as their arduous journey continues. Rizel officially initiates Stage 2 of their brutal training to surpass the combined hero, prompting an enthusiastic confirmation from the Demon Lord. Looking around cautiously, Mersha asks if conducting such dangerous training in her bedroom is safe, which Rizel casually brushes off. Pulling out a bizarrely cute device, Rizel introduces it as a magic repeller while Mersha questions its strange, unthreatening design. He explains that the device drastically lowers ambient magic density by forcefully dissolving the mana contained directly within living organisms. Sweating nervously, Mersha points out the horrifying implication that such a device would severely damage her own physical body. Rizel cheerfully confirms that leaving her alone with the active machine could easily result in her death, leaving Mersha completely aghast. Chuckling at her terrified expression, he reassures her that they won't push the dangerous training quite to the point of actual death. Recovering from her panic, the Demon Lord demands to know what exactly they are supposed to accomplish with the lethal device. Rizel instructs her to rely entirely on her own sheer willpower to forcefully prevent her magic from being ripped out of her body. Processing the daunting task, Mersha silently repeats the core concept of intense magical control. He emphasizes that even a minor flaw in complex magic circles renders them useless, making delicate mana control absolutely essential for advanced spells. Setting a simple baseline test, he challenges her to ignite a small candle while enduring the room's suffocating magical drain. Stealing her resolve, she confidently accepts the seemingly basic magical challenge. Brimming with misplaced confidence, she declares the task too easy and rapidly prepares to cast her spell. Her cocky smirk vanishes instantly as her conjured flame sputters out of existence the exact moment it manifests. Trembling under the immense atmospheric pressure, she stubbornly reminds herself of her supreme title and refuses to admit early defeat. Gritting her teeth, she focuses every ounce of her willpower into fighting the invisible force violently sapping her strength. Screaming in utter frustration, she unleashes her chaotic aura and desperately tries to force a tiny spark to ignite. The overwhelming suppression of the magic repeller pushes her to her absolute physical limits as she groans under the deep strain. Throwing a massive tantrum, she screams that her magic keeps instantly dissolving and angrily complains that the brutal exercise lacks any delicacy. Leaning in with a smug smirk, Rizel mocks her spectacular failure and asks if she is already throwing in the towel. Boiling with silent rage, she glares venomous daggers right at her arrogant instructor. Refusing to accept total humiliation, she angrily vows to keep trying until she successfully lights the damn candle. Smiling in genuine approval, Rizel quietly praises her fiery, unbroken spirit. Backing away from the dangerously intense magical pressure, Rizel casually cheers her on as she fiercely resumes her grueling training. Sweat pours down Mersha's face as she forcefully channels her volatile magic against the crushing suppression of the repeller. She squeezes her eyes shut in absolute concentration, pouring every ounce of her willpower into stabilizing her unruly mana. The immense atmospheric pressure threatens to snuff out her aura, but she stubbornly refuses to yield a single inch. Slowly, a tiny ripple of concentrated magic begins to fiercely coalesce in the empty air just above the wick. Faint sparks crackle intensely as her raw power clashes violently against the room's aggressive magic-draining field. Pushing through the sheer physical strain, a minuscule magical ember finally materializes directly atop the candle. Trembling with extreme exertion, she carefully nurtures the fragile spark to forcefully prevent it from dissipating into the void. A sharp hiss echoes through the tense room as the glowing ember suddenly catches onto the physical wick. The tiny flame flickers erratically for a moment before finally stabilizing into a bright, steady glow. Against all odds, the small candle burns warmly amidst the aggressively hostile and suffocating magical environment. She successfully maintains the delicate flame without a single flaw, proving her absolute control over her previously chaotic energy. A sudden, echoing hum fills the space as the oppressive magic repeller is abruptly powered down. Exhausted but completely unbroken, Mersha stares wide-eyed at the perfectly lit candle as her brain finally processes the monumental victory. Throwing her trembling hands into the air, the demon lord erupts into a massive, triumphant cheer to celebrate her hard-earned success. Rizel genuinely praises her phenomenal first-time effort, calmly noting that her magic isn't leaking at all and the fire remains perfectly stable. Brimming with arrogant pride, she smugly reminds him that she fiercely swore to keep trying until she accomplished the impossible task. Rizel casually announces that they will now transition to far more complex magic, prompting the completely drained demon lord to groan in total exhaustion. As the group prepares to teleport to the arena for attack magic training, Mersha desperately begs Rizel to teach her anti-travel sickness magic before they depart. Channeling her energy, the Demon King grits her teeth as she forcefully maintains her delicate magic control training. Absolute silence falls over the area as she focuses every ounce of her willpower into stabilizing the volatile mana. Glowing geometric patterns of raw magical energy begin to perfectly align in the air around her. The intense magical aura reaches its peak stability without a single flaw in its intricate formation. Lowering his guard, Rizel calmly observes her success and formally announces that she has passed the grueling test. Exhausted but triumphant, she finally releases her hold on the spell and lets her magical aura safely dissipate. Throwing her hands up in excitement, the Demon King cheers wildly as she notes that her activation and deactivation went perfectly. Powering down his magical device with a beep, Rizel praises her highly impressive progress for only a single month of training. Catching her breath, she shrewdly points out that they definitely did not come all the way out here just to test her basic control. Smirking at her sharp intuition, Rizel commends her keen observation skills. Brimming with excited anticipation, she watches closely as Rizel prepares to introduce today's brand new lesson. He raises a single hand, instantly gathering a massive concentration of shimmering magical power into his palm. The condensed mana rapidly solidifies, forming into a complex and incredibly dense magical structure. Presenting the glowing construct, Rizel officially introduces the concept of solid magic to his eager student. Staring intently at the glowing structure, the Demon King slowly processes the advanced physical nature of the spell. Rizel explains that solid magic acts as an outer defensive wall by stacking multiple flat surfaces together to form a solid body. He severely warns her that building the layers sequentially is too slow and dangerous, meaning the solid structure must be formed instantaneously. Staring her down, he bluntly challenges her to try instantly forging the defensive wall herself. Refusing to back down from the challenge, she confidently accepts the difficult task without a shred of hesitation. Sweating heavily under the immense pressure, she mutters frantic words of encouragement to herself as she begins channeling her mana. A brilliant flash of energy erupts as she desperately forces the multiple layers of magic to instantly solidify at once. Watching her intense effort, Rizel silently praises her excellent concentration and the highly detailed structure of her emerging wall. A massive, crystalline barrier successfully materializes before her as she proudly announces her triumph. Rizel commends her surprisingly decent first attempt, prompting her to arrogantly boast that she is the Demon King after all. Cutting her celebration violently short, Rizel suddenly declares that he will now aggressively test the durability of her newly forged wall. Caught completely off guard, she lets out a confused sound as he instantly unleashes his devastating attack. A massive, blinding explosion violently engulfs the barrier as the Demon King shrieks in utter terror. As the smoke finally clears, she stares in absolute shock to see that her barrier flawlessly absorbed the immense blast. Running her hand over the smooth surface, she marvels at the fact that there isn't a single scratch on her defensive wall. Rizel smugly points out that solid magic is vastly tougher than flat-surfaced barriers and asks if the immense power feels awesome. Acknowledging its amazing strength, she admits that the surreal experience of actually building it herself still doesn't feel entirely real. Brushing off her disbelief, Rizel casually suggests they escalate the training by adding even more layers to her construct. She forcefully channels an even greater surge of raw magic into the air as she prepares to push past her absolute limits. Steeling her unyielding resolve, she enthusiastically agrees to the intense escalation. The magical arrays violently lock into place as she successfully finalizes the massive, fortified construct. She excitedly calls out to Rizel to show off her super thick barrier, earning a nod of approval and a passing grade for her multilayer magic. Totally drained of all energy, she groans in absolute exhaustion and declares herself completely beaten. Rizel kindly offers to heal her fatigued body while she heavily pants and complains about the immense concentration the spell required. Looking ahead to their brutal schedule, Rizel mentions that they will continue practicing magic control and the application of solid magic tomorrow. Noticing her severely depleted state, he gently asks if she needs a break, but she stubbornly refuses to yield. Mersha firmly insists she doesn't need a break until she masters her training, refusing the luxury of taking it easy. Acknowledging her relentless drive, Rizel calmly notes that this intense dedication is simply how she always operates. Bracing herself nervously, she prepares for the next round as Rizel warns her he will be pushing her even harder. A vast, expansive landscape stretches out before them as they arrive at their new destination. Looking over the expansive territory, Rizel asks if this location involves the specific royal duty she previously mentioned. Mersha proudly confirms his suspicion, revealing the massive area as her entire nation's primary food storage and farmland. Surveying the impressive view, she explains that generations of demon lords have cast rainshower spells to artificially maintain the massive, parched territory. Rizel immediately deduces that casting a nationwide weather spell demands an impossibly huge magic pool from any reigning demon lord. Smirking at her hidden motives, Rizel accurately guesses that she brought him here for a much more specific reason than a simple tour. Confirming his suspicion, she admits she wants to test a highly efficient multilayer rainshower spell but fears failing her very first execution. Reading her anxious expression, Rizel casually asks if she brought him along as a safety net to watch over her cast. Sweating nervously, she confesses that she absolutely refuses to accidentally drag her innocent people into a catastrophic magical explosion. Silently praising her deep dedication to her duties, he watches her become adorably flustered with embarrassment. Admitting farming is far outside his own expertise, Rizel formally requests to analyze her underlying spell structure before she begins. Bursting with gratitude, she enthusiastically agrees and happily places her ambitious magical endeavor entirely in his care. Glowing magical interfaces illuminate the air as Rizel meticulously examines the intricate arcane data of her intended spell. Analyzing the complex components, he confirms the Blessed Rain formula correctly contains magical fertilizer, nutrition, and accelerated growth properties. Having verified the base ingredients, he firmly instructs the Demon Lord to present her brand new, self-made spell structure. She eagerly prepares the magic as he reassures her that he will immediately call out any necessary structural changes. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she silently reminds herself to stay calm and treat this monumental task exactly like their previous training. Channeling her immense power, a brilliant, complex magical array rapidly manifests directly above her outstretched hands. The intricate geometric spell circle expands massively in the air, glowing with potent, condensed magical energy. Carefully tracking her spellcraft, Rizel nods in approval as he confirms the magic circle, structure, and mana output are all perfectly aligned. Instructing her to fully activate the spell, he internally marvels at the terrifyingly massive talent she possesses to achieve this on her first try. Shouting her confirmation, she thrusts her hands forward to unleash the massive accumulation of layered magic into the sky. A colossal, blinding beam of concentrated energy erupts violently from her array and pierces directly into the heavens. The brilliant magical beam collides with the atmosphere, rapidly dispersing its glowing energy across the sprawling cloud layer. A magnificent, shimmering grid of multilayered magic successfully blankets the entire expanse of the sky above the parched farmlands. Gentle, life-giving raindrops finally begin to shower down from the artificially engineered storm clouds. A tiny, glowing plant sprout joyfully absorbs the nourishing droplets, signaling the absolute success of her blessed rain. Gazing up in absolute awe, the grateful civilians fall to their knees and praise the demon lord as the massive magic circle unleashes the blessed rain. Breathing heavily from the massive exertion, she softly whispers to herself that she actually managed to pull it off. Turning around to face her instructor, tears of profound relief begin to rapidly well up in her eyes. Trembling with emotion, she hesitates for a moment before quietly asking Rizel how she performed. He instantly assures her that the spell was absolutely perfect and promises that this year's harvest will easily shatter all previous records. Overwhelmed by the crushing weight lifting off her shoulders, she stammers out a broken sentence. Tears stream freely down her face as she smiles warmly, admitting just how incredibly glad she is. Watching her break down, Rizel silently notes that she hadn't shed a single tear throughout all their brutal, agonizing training. Wiping her eyes in sudden embarrassment, she reveals that her nation will finally be free from relying on overpriced human food trades. Stunned by the casual admission of extortion, Rizel reacts with immediate, wide-eyed shock. He frantically asks if human traders were seriously ripping off their food supply during such desperate times, prompting her to consider casting defensive magic on her new crops just in case. Rizel grimly realizes that her entire nation would have been absolutely doomed if he had arrived even a second later. Giving him a heartfelt look, she expresses her deepest gratitude for his invaluable decision to side with the demons this year. Staring warmly into the rain, she finishes her thought by stating that her starving people will finally be able to sleep with full stomachs. Rizel pauses in complete silence, deeply moved by the pure selflessness and heavy burden of the demon ruler. Smiling back at her, he genuinely declares that he is greatly looking forward to witnessing the upcoming harvest. She enthusiastically agrees before flashing a wicked, vindictive smirk at the thought of the human traders' horrified reactions to their success. The two unlikely allies stand side by side in companionable silence, proudly watching the life-giving rain wash over the revitalized farmlands. The sun shines brightly over the grand, sprawling architecture of the human royal capital. Inside the palace, a royal official stares in absolute shock at a disastrous financial report. Slamming his fist in disbelief, he screams furiously about their trade sales plummeting by a staggering 95%. A trembling subordinate cowers in fear, nervously confirming the catastrophic financial numbers. Enraged by the incompetence, the official erupts in anger and violently demands that his subordinates stop screwing around. He roars at the top of his lungs, desperately demanding to know what the hell is happening to their economy. Sweating profusely under the intense pressure, the terrified official stammers as he attempts to explain the dire situation. He explains that the demons recently achieved total self-sustainability, bluntly informing the border officers that they no longer need human trades. Panic sets in as the official realizes this failure might lead to his execution, recalling a previous minister who was killed simply for upsetting the king. Cursing the cocky demons, the furious king turns to his advisor Regius and asks if the three summoned heroes are flawlessly equipped. Satisfied with the confirmation, the ruthless ruler immediately orders the heroes to launch a direct attack on the demon lord city. Taken completely off guard by the drastic escalation, the advisor stammers in pure shock at the sudden declaration of war. The king coldly commands them to kill the demon lord and force a permanent contract condition obligating the demons to purchase human goods forever. Hesitantly offering his opinion, the advisor warns that the heroes are far too weak to defeat the demon lord and will likely struggle to return alive. Sighing deeply at his subordinates' lack of vision, the king dismissively states that he already knows the heroes are walking into a slaughter. A horrifying realization dawns on the advisor as he recalls a specific treaty clause stating that demons are expressly forbidden from killing any summoned hero. A wicked, calculating smirk stretches across the king's face as he proudly confirms his sinister loophole. He plans to sacrifice the heroes to force the demons into breaking the treaty, sparking an all-out war where the ultimate combined hero will obliterate them. Brushing off concerns about lost fusion materials, the king insists that manipulating the stupid demons into their own destruction is the primary strategic goal. Shouting that a few dead heroes are a small price to pay during a crisis, he declares they will happily die for humanity's honor as his terrified subordinates bow out. The relieved officials hastily excuse themselves from the oppressive throne room as the tyrant aggressively barks at them to screw off. Left completely alone in the shadows, the arrogant king mutters to himself about the sheer foolishness of the demon race. Clenching his fist, he vows to crush whatever trickery the demons used and forcefully remind them never to disobey human supremacy. Standing silently on the other side of the heavy door, one of the summoned heroes processes the chilling order to attack the demon capital. Leaning closer to the gap, the shocked hero questions if he truly just heard a horrific plot to invade the enemy territory. Sweating nervously in the dark corridor, he admits that eavesdropping isn't usually his style as he strains to listen closer. The horrific words echo violently in his mind, confirming the royal conspiracy to sacrifice the heroes to trigger an all-out war. Trembling with absolute terror, he recognizes the king's voice and realizes they are all being treated as completely disposable pawns. Desperately trying to rationalize the situation, he tries to convince himself that they would have been killed long ago if the kingdom truly wanted them dead. Shaken to his very core, the conflicted hero silently stalks away from the ominous throne room with a heavy heart. His mind races with dark paranoia as he considers the terrifying possibility that the king actively wants all the summoned heroes dead. He pauses in the grand hallway, utterly paralyzed by the sheer, crushing weight of the impending betrayal. Forcing a strained smile, he shakes his head and tries to bury the dread by claiming he is simply overthinking things. Meanwhile, far away in a desolate wasteland, Rizel calmly observes that their new training location is incredibly deserted. Mercer asks if they will conduct their simulation battle here, and Rizel confirms the remote area prevents her massively upgraded skills from destroying civilization. Flashing a challenging smirk, Rizel asks the Demon Lord if she is finally ready to go all out without holding anything back. A fierce, confident smile spreads across Mercer's face as she assures him that he already knows the exact answer to that. Sinking into a ready combat stance, Rizel firmly declares that neither of them will pull their punches this time. Blazing with immense magical energy, the Demon Lord fiercely vows to unleash her absolute maximum power in the upcoming clash. Thrusting her hand forward with devastating intent, she violently launches a colossal magic spear to officially initiate the battle. Hundreds of glowing magical projectiles manifest in the air, instantly locking onto their target. Analyzing the incoming swarm of magic spears, Rizel calmly calculates that a simple defensive barrier will never be enough to block them all. Channeling his mana, he slams his hands together and quickly deploys a dense iron barrier. Anticipating his exact defensive move, Mercer immediately counters by casting a homing vault spell to manipulate the projectiles. The magnetized spears violently redirect their trajectory to bypass his shield, forcing a genuinely shocked gasp from the hero. Cursing under his breath, Rizel seamlessly executes a rapid flash step to evade the deadly barrage just in time. He lands safely a short distance away, exhaling a sharp breath as the deadly volley crashes into the dirt behind him. Praising her excellent tactical execution, he drops his defensive stance and declares that it is finally his turn to strike. Dark, ominous magical energy violently erupts from his hands, instantly flooding the entire battlefield. A dense magical fog aggressively rolls over the terrain as Mercer realizes it is an insidious mist designed to completely numb her senses. While Rizel internally praises her keen observation skills, she frantically casts her standard antidote magic and prays it holds up against his overwhelming power. Fighting through the oppressive sensory deprivation, she tightly grips her magical focus and pushes forward. A fierce smirk crosses her face as she boldly declares that her countermeasure isn't just a simple antidote spell. Unleashing her carefully prepared trap, she violently thrusts her hands forward and roars that this massive strike will decide the match. A colossal explosion detonates right where Rizel was standing, sending violent shockwaves ripping across the desolate training ground. As the thick smoke finally clears, an entirely unharmed Rizel casually asks if that was her absolute best shot. Mercer stammers in utter disbelief, frantically demanding to know how he survived a direct hit without even conjuring a single barrier. Unfazed by her shock, Rizel casually points upward and instructs her to take a closer look at her own magic circle. Looking up into the sky, the Demon Lord's eyes go wide as she analyzes the glowing remnants of her massive spell. Laughing lightly, Rizel explains that he simply rewrote her targeting parameters to hit absolutely nothing, warning her that slow, massive spells are terrible against skilled human opponents. Clenching her fists in immense frustration, she aggressively scolds herself for getting carried away and relying on a flashy finishing technique. Reassuring his furious student, Rizel notes that she should be perfectly fine since the combined hero lacks the complex finesse to rewrite magic circles. He highly praises her solid overall strategy of using quick spells to wait for an opening while secretly preparing a devastating finishing blow. Flashing a confident smile, he promises that she won't lose to the combined hero as long as she refuses to let her guard down. Burning with renewed determination, Mersha fiercely declares that all this brutal training is nothing if it ensures the ultimate destruction of their enemy. The two warriors stand side by side in companionable silence, absorbing the vital lessons of their intense simulation battle. Breaking the serious atmosphere, Mersha happily stretches her sore muscles and lets out a relaxed sigh. Smiling warmly, she cheerfully admits that despite the grueling difficulty, their brutal training actually had quite a few fun moments. Genuinely surprised by her positive outlook, Rizel raises an eyebrow and asks if she truly means that. She enthusiastically confirms it, explaining that learning new concepts like advanced defensive spells has kept her incredibly motivated. A soft smile reaches Rizel's eyes as he admits that her high spirits are great to hear. He confesses that he was actually worried she might burn out after setting such an impossibly high goal, a revelation that completely catches her off guard. Placing a hand firmly over her heart, she fiercely vows to keep her solemn promise of becoming his permanent companion. Watching her unwavering resolve, Rizel silently notes how refreshingly different she is from his past friends. The scene shifts to them enjoying a well-earned meal, where Mersha is absolutely stunned to learn that the kingdom's top-ranked warrior is the one who cooked their incredibly delicious sandwiches. Turning away from the desolate training grounds, Rizel suggests they head back, and Mersha casually agrees. A sudden, ominous rumble shakes the earth, prompting Rizel to ask what is going on. The ground violently erupts before them, sending a massive geyser of dirt and debris high into the air. A colossal, terrifying beast slowly emerges from the dark depths of the newly formed crater. A booming, furious voice echoes across the wasteland, demanding to know who dares to disturb its deep slumber. Staring in absolute shock at the towering mythical creature, Mersha stammers in disbelief while Rizel casually asks if she knows him. She angrily snaps back that she has never seen a dragon in her entire life, prompting a blunt apology from the hero. Her anger slowly fades into dread as she realizes the massive beast perfectly matches the terrifying descriptions from ancient legends. She grimly recounts a terrifying history where a single dragon utterly annihilated the land's previous civilization 10,000 years ago. She explains that the lucky few who survived the genocide only lived on by swearing a sacred oath to never disturb the beast's rest. Swallowing her rising fear, she finally reveals the legendary creature's true moniker. The colossal slumbering ancient dragon glares down at them with glowing, hateful eyes. Trembling under its overwhelming pressure, she mutters that they have accidentally awakened an unbelievable, world-ending threat. The sheer magnitude of their mistake fully paralyzes the demon lord in pure terror. Rizel simply notes that interrupting someone's sleep is a terrible thing to do, leaving Mersha completely jaw-dropped at his utter lack of tension. Furious at his relaxed attitude, she yells at him before he casually asks if they should just punch the monster back to sleep. A thunderous, mocking laughter violently erupts from the dragon's massive jaws, shaking the very air. The colossal beast sneers down at the puny demon, highly amused that she actually considered punching it. Mersha panics and screams at Rizel, blaming his arrogant mouth for completely enraging the legendary monster. Roaring with absolute fury, the dragon vows to burn their arrogant attitudes entirely to ash. As a catastrophic breath of fire engulfs them, Rizel firmly commands his student to instantly activate her absorption barrier. Reacting purely on instinct, Mersha successfully deploys her intricate magical shield just as the blinding inferno strikes. The glowing multi-layered barrier flawlessly holds its ground, perfectly deflecting the dragon's devastating breath attack. Staring at her own hands in utter disbelief, the demon lord breathlessly realizes she completely blocked the legendary strike. The ancient dragon halts its fiery assault, staring down at the surviving specks in pure, unadulterated confusion. Rizel proudly states that she surpassed the beast's power a long time ago, leaving Mersha to process her own monstrous growth. He confidently assures her that she now possesses more than enough power to annihilate the dragon in a single heartbeat. Staring up at the towering monstrosity, she visualizes defeating the ultimate nightmare with her own bare hands. Infuriated by their blatant disrespect, the dragon growls that blocking a single attack proves absolutely nothing. A vicious smirk crosses Mersha's face as she recalls the humiliating treaty that forces demons to act as sacrificial bait if this exact dragon ever awoke. She fiercely realizes that slaughtering the beast herself will permanently nullify the oppressive human treaty and free her people. Watching her murderous aura flare, Rizel grins and notes that she is finally making the proper face of a true demon lord. He urges her forward, declaring the legendary creature a perfect, memorable warm-up battle before she faces the combined hero. Laughing wildly, she flexes her incredible magical power and eagerly embraces her first real battle against a myth. The enraged dragon gathers a horrifying amount of magical energy in its jaws, furious at their continuous mockery. Unleashing a blindingly bright torrent of flames, the beast roars that it will incinerate them beyond ash. Leaping fearlessly directly into the roaring inferno, Mersha screams that she will hunt the myth down to secure her nation's future. An overwhelming, terrifying aura of highly condensed mana violently explodes from her fingertips. Thrusting her hand forward with absolute killing intent, she unleashes her ultimate magical spear directly at the beast's head. The colossal projectile violently impales the ancient dragon in a blinding flash of sheer destructive force. Unleashing her ultimate attack, Mersha fiercely screams for the ancient beast to feel her absolute wrath. The colossal magic spear violently detonates upon impact, engulfing the battlefield in a blinding explosion of catastrophic energy. As the dense smoke slowly clears, the once mighty ancient dragon crashes heavily to the ruined earth. Floating down gracefully from the sky, the victorious demon lord touches back onto the scorched ground. Staring blankly at the massive corpse, Mersha stammers in utter disbelief that the legendary battle is already over. Ryzel calmly notes that while Mersha exceeded his expectations, the mythical dragon was actually surprisingly weak. Deciding not to take any chances with a reviving monster, she aggressively blasts the corpse again to ensure it stays down permanently. She confidently declares her plan to use the dragon's defeat for human negotiations, prompting Ryzel to ask what she intends to do with the actual physical body. Realizing she already has sufficient proof of the kill, she ponders what they should actually do with the giant carcass. A sudden spark of inspiration hits her as she suggests harvesting the ancient beast to forge incredibly powerful magic tools. Ryzel's eyes light up with a sudden, brilliant idea of his own as he listens to her suggestion. Chuckling mischievously, he announces his new plan while Mersha eagerly demands to know what interesting concept he just cooked up. Bouncing with sheer anticipation, she frantically pesters him to reveal the secret immediately. Waving off her impatience, Ryzel tells her not to rush and promises to explain everything clearly since he requires her direct assistance. Back at the palace, a deeply touched Cecil receives a surprise present but wonders what prompted the sudden gift. Mersha excitedly urges her little sister to simply accept the gift for now, promising that Ryzel will explain the intricate details later. Unwrapping the package, Cecil gasps in utter shock at the sight of a magnificent magic sword forged directly from the legendary dragon. Ryzel explains that the unique blade utilizes Mersha's saved magic circles, ensuring that only someone from her direct bloodline can channel mana to activate its immense power. Overwhelmed by the priceless artifact, Cecil nervously tries to refuse it, but Ryzel insists it would be a complete waste for him to keep it. Stepping forward warmly, Mersha gently places a reassuring hand on her younger sister's trembling shoulder. The Demon Lord solemnly explains that if future combined heroes ever appear, Cecil will need this immense power to defeat them in her stead. Gripping the hilt tightly, Cecil accepts the heavy burden of becoming the kingdom's ultimate defender once her older sister departs. Her eyes burning with absolute resolve, the young girl firmly declares that she has already made her choice to fight. Safely storing the blade, Cecil praises Ryzel for defeating the mythical beast, prompting him to awkwardly admit he wasn't actually the one who killed it. As Cecil stares in pure bewilderment, Mersha thrusts her chest out and proudly brags that she was the one who slaughtered the slumbering ancient dragon. Ryzel smugly points out that she was initially terrified, forcing the flustered demon lord to angrily shush his teasing. Shifting the topic, Cecil curiously asks if they managed to utilize every single part of the colossal beast to forge the sword. Mersha eagerly reveals that they actually have a massive amount of leftovers and announces a grand citywide festival to celebrate. She enthusiastically plans to invite every citizen to feast, noting that a main dish of mythical dragon meat is simply too tempting to pass up. Tasking Ryzel with the monumental job of butchering the carcass, Cecil happily scurries off to mobilize the city's workers for the immediate preparations. The entire demon capital erupts into joyous celebration as the massive feast officially begins. Savoring the incredible meal, the demons marvel at how thousands of years of slumber tenderized the normally tough dragon meat. Looking over the happy crowds, Mersha reflects that this temporary peace is wonderful but solemnly acknowledges that their true problems remain entirely unsolved. Staring seriously into the night sky, Ryzel firmly agrees that their actual, desperate fight is only just beginning. He gravely warns her that the combined heroes' staggering strength completely dwarfs the power of the ancient dragon they just slaughtered. Mersha grimly adds that the enemy is backed by a shameless goddess who has been dangerously manipulating human society from the shadows for millennia. Nodding in absolute unison, the two unlikely allies fiercely vow to pull themselves together for the incoming, apocalyptic battle. Walking up with a warm smile, Cecil expresses her unwavering belief that the two of them will definitely accomplish their impossible mission. Reminding her sister that she will leave this world after the fight, Mersha firmly instructs Cecil not to compromise during future diplomatic negotiations. A dark, terrifyingly wicked smile spreads across Cecil's face as she vividly fantasizes about mercilessly cornering the human politicians. Thoroughly unnerved by the gentle girl's sudden sadistic aura, both Rizel and Mersha sweat nervously and quickly agree to leave the politics to her capable hands. A heavy wooden door shuts firmly as the group settles down after their massive, celebratory feast. Patting her stuffed stomach, Mersha groans loudly that she absolutely cannot eat another single bite. Cecil quickly scolds her older sister for acting sloppy, while Rizel silently notes that she hardly looks like a fearsome demon lord. A sudden, sharp magical ping alerts the group to an unexpected external presence. Rizel calmly asks if she noticed the intrusion just as Mersha pinpoints 3 distinct signatures approaching their front gate. Analyzing the incoming threats, Mersha notes their varying combat power levels and quickly deduces their true identities. She grimly announces that the human kingdom's summoned heroes have finally arrived. Standing before the massive demonic fortress, the heroes arrogantly scoff at how anticlimactic and quick their journey to the enemy stronghold felt. One of the heroes desperately tries to restrain his aggressive companion, insisting they need to parley with the demon lord instead of fighting. Exhaling a frustrated sigh, the tactical hero curses his teammates for making reckless moves against his strict prior warnings. The hot-headed hero furiously screams at the demonic guards, violently demanding an immediate audience with the demon lord. A steadfast guard firmly blocks their path, prompting the arrogant hero to hurl a racist insult at the imposing orc. The massive demon glares down heavily at the puny human, deeply provoked by the disrespectful slur. Cracking his knuckles, the arrogant hero smugly declares the guard a perfect warm-up target before facing the actual demon lord. The loyal guard violently shifts into a combat stance, fiercely vowing to protect the gate even at the cost of his own life. The remaining heroes groan in complete exasperation, reluctantly preparing for battle since their teammate forced their hands. Mersha asks if Rizel plans to change his appearance, prompting him to remember he is supposed to be officially dead. Channeling his magic, Rizel rapidly alters his physical appearance to conceal his true identity from his former comrades. Down at the front gates, the enraged orc guard and the hot-headed hero violently charge directly at each other. A sudden, massive kinetic impact forcefully interrupts the brawl before either combatant can land a decisive blow. The sheer physical force of the unexpected magical block sends violent shockwaves rippling across the stone courtyard. The heroes frantically regroup in shock, desperately checking on their teammate after the abrupt magical intervention. The dust dramatically clears to reveal the kingdom's true rulers standing imposingly before the invading humans. The tactical hero trembles as he senses the overwhelming, suffocating magical pressure radiating from the new arrivals. Glaring down with absolute authority, Mersha coldly reminds the filthy intruders that assaulting her castle is a severe crime. The tactical hero desperately warns his hot-headed companion to stand down, instantly recognizing Mersha as an overwhelmingly superior entity. The panicked guard apologizes and offers to summon the army, but Mersha casually dismisses the bloody request. Mersha announces her intention to converse with the intruders, sparking a glimmer of hope in the tactical hero's mind for extracting answers. Refusing to back down completely, the hot-headed hero tightly grips his weapon and mutters curses at the demon's supreme arrogance. Quickly formulating a new strategy, the tactical hero whispers to his allies to buy him a few crucial moments. Stepping forward respectfully, he apologizes for their impolite actions and begs the superior demon to answer a single question. Bowing his head slightly, he asks if she will at least entertain his incredibly bold inquiry. His confused teammates silently agree to follow his lead, trusting his unparalleled talent for battlefield strategizing. Mersha telepathically complains to Rizel about the hero's hypocritical behavior, asking if their chaotic nature caused him immense trouble in the past. Breaking the tense silence, the tactical hero loudly drops the forbidden keywords regarding the combined hero. Mersha's eyes narrow dangerously as she acknowledges his dangerous knowledge of the kingdom's darkest secret. Catching her reaction, the hero violently steps forward and demands to know the actual truth. Consulting her hidden mentor telepathically, Mersha asks for instructions and Rizel calmly leaves the delicate situation entirely in her capable hands. Snapping into command mode, the demon lord abruptly orders her guards to prepare an immediate teleportation spell to move the negotiation. The disoriented heroes shout in pure confusion as swirling magical energy begins to rapidly engulf their bodies. Enveloped in swirling magical energy, the tactical hero braces himself as the sudden teleportation spell takes hold. A massive, incredibly intricate magic circle vividly illuminates the ground directly beneath the intruders. While one hero marvels at the unprecedented scale and detail of the spell, his companion furiously yells that this is not the time for praise. The heroes curse in pure despair, angrily realizing that they were completely tricked by the deceitful demons. Amidst their panicked shouting, a commanding voice abruptly orders the summoned heroes to lift their heads. They look up in absolute awe as a grand, imposing throne room materializes before their very eyes. A confident figure sits upon the throne, formally welcoming the bewildered humans to an official royal audience. Leaning forward with immense authority, Mersha firmly declares herself as the supreme demon lord. The tactical hero stammers in pure disbelief as he processes the sudden shift from a battle to a formal audience. Another hero sweats nervously, deeply terrified by the sheer magical power required to effortlessly teleport their entire group at once. The hot-headed hero stares with wide eyes, completely shocked that this young woman holds the terrifying title of Demon Lord. Gazing down at her captives, Mersha offers to reveal the absolute truth of this world and invites them to ask their burning questions. Desperate for answers, the tactical hero steps forward and begs to know the true purpose of their summoning and the dark reality behind the combined hero. Mersha grimly reveals that the combined hero is humanity's ultimate trump card, forged by ruthlessly sacrificing past summoned heroes as fusion fodder. While the tactical hero solemnly accepts that his darkest suspicions were correct, his hot-headed companion aggressively refuses to fall for her alleged trickery. The enraged hero wildly demands solid proof against the human kingdom, forcing his panicked ally to try and calm him down. Expressing mild annoyance at their short tempers, Mersha casually calls upon her hidden companion to handle the situation. A disguised man steps forward and casually greets the intruders, leaving them entirely confused about his true identity. Dispelling his magical disguise to reveal his true face, Rizel leaves his former comrades completely stunned since they genuinely believed he was dead. Rizel firmly announces that he has something critical to show them, prompting the wary tactical hero to question if this is just another elaborate illusion. Rizel challenges the heroes to confirm the grim reality with their own eyes as he prepares to project a vision. A glowing magical screen smoothly materializes in the air before the bewildered intruders. The projection sharply focuses on an astonishingly high combat power reading of 39,124. Staring in utter disbelief, the tactical hero recognizes the king's office and marvels at the impossible clarity of the scrying spell. The heroes question the identity of the mysterious figure standing before the king, noting they have never seen him inside the palace. Observing the perfectly timed meeting, Rizel casually remarks that the situation is incredibly convenient. The hot-headed hero stubbornly refuses to be tricked by the seemingly normal human projection, but Rizel bluntly reveals that the man is actually the ultimate combined hero. Pointing to the shifting combat value on the screen, Rizel asks the shocked intruders if they can see the staggering number displayed there. He explains that this massive figure represents the combined hero's combat power, which he read the exact moment he arrived in this world. Utter despair washes over the heroes as they question why the kingdom would even summon them when they already possess such an overpowered weapon. Watching the power level tick upward, the tactical hero horrifyingly realizes this monster is the accumulated fruit of every sacrificed hero before them. Rizel coldly shatters their remaining hopes by declaring that the summoned heroes were intended to be nothing but fusion fodder from the very beginning. Panic sets in as the grim truth dawns on the captives, forcing them to realize they will never be allowed to return to their original world. One of the younger heroes breaks down into tears, sobbing uncontrollably at the thought of never seeing his family again. Slamming his fist in sheer frustration, the hot-headed warrior angrily curses their completely hopeless situation. Stepping forward with undeniable authority, Mersha confirms this dark truth and reminds them that humanity has suppressed her people with this exact same overwhelming force for years. Her demonic aura flares dangerously as she warns the intruders that the demons will not simply let them off the hook after enduring decades of torture and loss. Dropping to his knees, the tactical hero desperately pleads with the demons to help them escape their horrific fate. He wildly offers to become a laborer or a slave, promising to do absolutely anything they say in exchange for their salvation. Clicking her tongue at his pathetic display, Mersha coldly turns her gaze and asks what his two companions think of this surrender. The crying hero immediately joins him on the floor, bowing deeply and begging for their lives. Swallowing his immense pride, the hot-headed warrior grits his teeth and admits he must get home no matter the cost. Forcing his body down, he slams his head against the stone floor in absolute submission. All three heroes prostrate themselves completely, begging the Lord of Demons to show mercy to a group of desperate fools. Staring down coldly at her new subjects, Mersha accepts their absolute submission and prepares to issue her very first order. With a wicked glint in her eye, she commands the three heroes to become dead corpses. Reviewing an official report, a human bureaucrat mutters about a violent skirmish between human and demon adventurers where only the humans survived. He notes that while past precedents would demand execution, the incident was ruled an accident and will only result in a year-long prison sentence. Leaning back in his chair, the official shrugs and comfortably accepts the finalized legal ruling. Complaining about the annoying paperwork, he curses the adventurers for dragging such a massive headache through the court system. A sudden, thunderous crash violently shatters the quiet atmosphere of his office. Startled out of his seat, the bureaucrat shrieks and wonders if a structural pillar just collapsed nearby. He slowly turns his head, his eyes widening in pure horror at the sight before him. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he recoils from the bloody corpses suddenly dumped across his floor. Staring closer, he realizes with mounting terror that the lifeless bodies have massive, gaping holes punched straight through their guts. Trembling violently, the panicked official demands to know why these mangled corpses suddenly materialize directly inside his private office. Clutching his head in absolute dread, he whimpers that this horrifying situation must be a terrible nightmare. Flashing back an hour earlier inside the Demon King's castle, Melshaw issues her very first order by commanding the captive heroes to become dead corpses. The summoned heroes instantly erupt into panicked shouting, accusing the deceitful demon of tricking them from the very start. Leaning forward with a wicked smirk, Melshaw coldly reminds the terrified intruders that she only ever speaks the absolute truth. Breaking the tense silence, Rizel sighs heavily and suggests that the demon lord should finally stop mercilessly teasing their desperate guests. Bursting into cheerful laughter, Melshaw admits she went too far but thoroughly enjoyed seeing the utterly dumbfounded expressions on the heroes' faces. The chaotic emotional whiplash leaves the summoned warriors staring blankly in absolute confusion. Exhaling a frustrated sigh, Riol angrily demands that the kingdom's ultimate ruler at least put a reasonable limit on her cruel pranks. Shrugging off the criticism, Melshaw cheerfully apologizes for holding a petty grudge while Rizel casually notes that Riol is visibly furious. Rising to his feet with fierce determination, Riol admits he is too dumb to think things through but refuses to back down anyway. Glaring directly at Rizel, the hot-headed warrior aggressively demands a clear, understandable explanation for this entire convoluted mess. Impressed by his fiery outburst, Melshaw raises an eyebrow and murmurs in genuine amusement. Smiling warmly, the demon lord tells the flustered warrior not to insult his own intelligence, praising him for being remarkably honest. Turning her attention back to her mentor, Melshaw politely asks Rizel to take over the rest of the complicated explanation. Riol bombards Rizel with frantic questions, demanding to know if illusion magic or brainwashing allowed him to fake his own death and fool the royal assassins. Rizel bluntly reveals that he simply manufactured a fake body, leaving Riol utterly disturbed by the macabre revelation. Paranoia instantly sweeps through the heroes as they whisper horrifying theories about Rizel murdering an innocent victim to steal their corpse. Scowling at their morbid assumptions, Rizel clarifies that he synthetically created his own body from scratch while Melshaw laughs at their total lack of trust. One of the heroes violently recoils, frantically asking if the man standing before them is actually a fake entity entirely. Panicking even harder, the terrified hero shrieks that he cannot deal with ghosts and begs for a break from the psychological torture. Pulling out a glowing device, Rizel ignores the panic and explains that he used a multifunctional cell to engineer a perfect biological clone. He details the highly advanced process, explaining how he seamlessly mixed a multitude of complex spells together to forge the ultimate cloning magic. Awestruck by the sheer technological gap, Riol admits Rizel's magical comprehension completely dwarfs his own world's primitive cloning research. Shuddering at the ethical implications, another hero mutters that sacrificing a living clone still deeply irks him, though he admits it beats dying in actual combat. The heroes rapidly spiral into a chaotic, overlapping debate about the terrifying existential dread of doppelgangers and the unstable nature of artificial life. Annoyed by the escalating philosophical argument, Rizel violently shouts over the squabbling group to force their immediate attention. He firmly declares that he no longer cares about their chaotic opinions and ruthlessly dictates that they will definitely use his cloning strategy. Staring in pure disgust at their lifeless, bloody doppelgangers, the heroes groan while Rizel notes these high-grade clones are intentionally designed to decay quickly. Riol logically points out that dumping the bodies in a secluded spot will just make them unidentifiable, forcing Rizel to reveal a much more surefire method. Smirking wickedly, Rizel announces he will teleport the corpses straight into the king's private office alongside a magically sealed letter. Blinking groggily, the disoriented human king hears someone desperately calling out his royal title. Rogis kneels by the bed, expressing immense relief that His Majesty has finally awakened. The advisor explains guards found the monarch completely surrounded by mangled corpses after hearing screams. Still dazed, the king slowly repeats the word regarding the corpses as his memory returns. Jolting upright in pure panic, the furious monarch aggressively demands an explanation about the bodies. Rogis confirms the corpses are the summoned heroes, leading the king to declare war. Swallowing nervously, the advisor questions how the heroes' dead bodies returned to the palace so fast. Pointing to a strange metallic device, Rogis suggests it holds the terrifying answer. Examining the machinery, he calculates the device teleported them across an astonishing 20,000-kilometer radius. Enraged by the incredible demonic technology, the king wildly speculates they recruited a retired sage. Snapping back to reality, the impatient tyrant aggressively demands to read the accompanying letter. The highly sarcastic letter outlines the dragon's defeat, nullified treaties, and drastic trade changes. Crumpling the parchment, the furious king erupts into a blinding rage over the disrespectful message. Rogis begs him to calm down as the monarch rants about the insolent demonic threats. Pacing furiously, the arrogant ruler curses the demons for stealing his tactical initiative. Roaring with bloodlust, he commands the combined heroes' immediate deployment to burn demon territory. The cautious advisor warns that recent suspicious movements warrant sending a scout before attacking. Glaring absolute daggers, the ruthless king coldly asks if Rogis wishes to be executed. Swallowing his terror, the bowing advisor immediately vows to execute the royal command. Left alone, the tyrant vows the combined hero will forcefully remind the demons of their place. Meanwhile, Melchior bursts into hysterical laughter visualizing the human king's utterly pathetic reaction. The bewildered hero's sweat drop while struggling to accept this bratty girl is the demon lord. Rizel laughs that the stubborn king actually fell for all their pranks and hidden traps. A mechanical chime alerts Rizel that the foolish monarch just pushed the trapped shock button. The ashamed heroes hang their heads for completely falling for the human king's luxurious manipulation. Shuddering at the fusion reality, they agree Rizel's cloning magic beats being forcefully combined. A sudden knock at the heavy wooden door instantly silences the group's chaotic chatter. Entering smoothly, a loyal soldier formally presents the exact teleportation device used previously. Praising his work, Melchior accepts the single ominous letter sent back through the portal. The demon lord assures the guard she will rely on him again before he leaves. Brimming with anticipation, Melchior prepares to read the human king's inevitable response. Her childish smirk fades into a serious hum as she rapidly scans the harsh contents. Rizel asks about the reply while the anxious heroes gulp loudly awaiting the news. A wickedly triumphant smirk slices across her face as she announces the king took their bait. 1 month later, the humans deploy the terrifying combined hero into the scorching Menares desert. The colossal juggernaut stands ominously amidst blowing sands, radiating an aura of pure destruction. Trembling nervously, Cecil admits she has never been so terrified to fight a stronger opponent. Turning her head in complete confusion, Melchior asks her younger sister what she means. With a deadpan expression, the demon lord bluntly states Cecil will not get to shine here. The young girl stares in utter bewilderment, completely blindsided by her older sister's dismissive remark. Rizel predicts the humans will rely purely on the combined hero to assert total dominance over the demons. He explains that crushing their ultimate trump card will finally knock the arrogant humans off their high horses. Catching onto his dangerous implication, the others stare at him in sudden, mounting disbelief. Smirking confidently, Rizel firmly confirms their exact suspicions without a single shred of hesitation. He boldly declares his absolute intention to face the terrifying combined hero entirely on his own. Rizel finishes setting up a device and mutters that it will have to do. Riol approaches Rizel during his morning walk and asks what he is preparing before the big fight. Rizel explains he is installing image reception magic tools all across the demon territory. Riol stares in shock as Rizel reveals Flod used storage magic to distribute the countless stones. Sweating nervously, Riol realizes the true terrifying threat was Rizel all along. Questioning the massive setup, Riol asks why Rizel is broadcasting the upcoming battle. Rizel explains he wants to broadcast Melchior's true power to prevent future uprisings during her absence. Rizel reveals he intends to recruit Melchior to help him defeat an unbeatable opponent in his world. Riol trembles in pure dread upon realizing an entity exists that even Rizel cannot defeat. Relieved they avoided fighting him, Riol eagerly volunteers to help Rizel finish the broadcast setup. Sarina taps a microphone to test the audio broadcast across the entire demon territory. A massive holographic screen flickers to life as Sarina excitedly announces the battle is about to begin. Crowds of demons cheer wildly as Sarina declares the end of their long oppression. Surveying the battlefield, Rizel notes the human forces are unexpectedly small due to their sheer arrogance. Pointing across the wasteland, Rizel spots a single commanding figure standing out among the enemies. The combined hero arrogantly greets Melchior and notes how fine she has become. Melchior coldly dismisses his greeting and demands to know where the deceitful goddess is hiding. Scanning the magical signatures, Rizel realizes the goddess is relaxing off the battlefield completely unprepared. A wicked realization dawns on Rizel as he notes the human capital is currently completely defenseless. Feigning clumsiness, Rizel dramatically excuses himself to handle an urgent plot. Melchior sighs in exasperation and tells him to leave since he is going anyway. Smirking confidently, Melchior promises the battle will be completely over by the time he returns. Rizel smiles warmly and genuinely looks forward to witnessing her absolute victory. The combined hero mocks Melchior for fighting solo and arrogantly invites her to summon her entire army. A quiet, mocking snicker escapes Melchior's lips as she stares down her arrogant opponent. Confused by her sudden laughter, the combined hero asks if she has finally gone completely insane. Melchior openly laughs at the sheer absurdity of fearing such a pathetic weakling for so many years. Throwing her head back, the demon lord declares his lack of self-awareness is absolutely hilarious. Enraged by the blatant insult, the combined hero furiously prepares to strike her down. Holding back his troops, the furious hero vows to brutally slaughter the demon lord himself. Melchior smirks wickedly, mocking him for falling for her simple provocation so incredibly easily. Roaring in absolute fury, the combined hero charges forward and declares this will be her final day. Blazing with terrifying magical energy, Melchior fiercely vows to end the entire fight in exactly 10 seconds. A massive shockwave erupts as she instantaneously closes the immense distance between them. The combined hero freezes in absolute terror as Melchior violently materializes directly in his face. A devastating punch brutally caves in the combined hero's stomach, sending him flying backward. Staring down at his crumpled body, Melchior coldly asks how he failed to dodge such a simple attack. Groaning in agony, the hero clutches his bleeding gut as Melchior notes his painfully slow regeneration. Desperately trying to heal his massive wound, the battered hero mutters that this damage is absolutely nothing. Melchior glares down at him with an overwhelming aura of pure, murderous intent. The combined hero scowls, muttering angrily about petty tricks. A sudden, violent impact catches him completely off guard. Coughing up blood, the idiot desperately struggles to cast a full healing spell. Fully recovered, he snarls and furiously demands how she dared to hurt him. Melchior smirks confidently, warning the arrogant hero not to get cocky. She bluntly declares that she is overwhelmingly strong while he is pathetically weak. The combined hero freezes, his eyes widening in pure shock. He stammers quietly, finally processing the massive gap in their power. A violent spray of blood erupts instantly. Human soldiers stare in absolute horror as Melchior casually calls the fight boring. Sarina broadcasts her utter disbelief at the ridiculously one-sided skirmish. She excitedly declares an overwhelming, flawless victory for the demon lord. The broadcast ends with cheering demons chanting glory to their supreme ruler. Turning away from the carnage, Melchior calmly asks if Rizel watched the battle. Rizel praises her amazing performance, noting he just finished his own secret business. Panting slightly, Melchior suspiciously asks what exactly he was doing. He casually reveals he successfully stole the combined hero's magical device. Melchior stammers in shock, asking if he somehow already analyzed the complex tool. Telling her to calm down, he announces he wants an audience for this. Holding up the stolen device, Rizel aggressively demands the summoning goddess reveal herself. Realizing the coward isn't taking the bait, he notes her obvious absence. Brushing off the silence, he loudly guarantees she will eventually show up. Brimming with anticipation, Melchior urges him to just do it already. Rizel offers a firm, confident confirmation to proceed immediately. He dramatically announces the official beginning of his grand experiment. He prepares to test the mysterious magic on himself and the combined hero. Melchior tells him to leave, claiming she will finish her battle before he even returns. Rizel smiles warmly, genuinely looking forward to witnessing her absolute victory. Flying away, Rizel notes Melchior will be perfectly fine with her immense powers. He plans to steal the combination device while human defenses remain completely unguarded. Checking his magical map, he navigates directly toward the artifact's hidden location. Arriving at the designated spot, he finds the area completely abandoned. Glancing around the room, he confirms there are absolutely no hidden traps. He deduces their extreme carelessness stems from sheer, unchecked arrogance. Standing in absolute silence, he waits to see if anyone approaches. Rizel grins triumphantly, having secured the coveted combination device far too easily. Realizing he has plenty of spare time, he decides to thoroughly analyze the stolen machine. Glowing magical arrays violently expand as he rapidly initiates his deep analysis. Staring at the complex data, he realizes the device is incredibly useful. A sudden magical ping alerts him that Melchior has successfully finished her battle. Reappearing, Rizel praises her fight and announces he also completed his secret mission. Shocked, Melchior desperately asks what evil plot he was executing behind her back. He confidently reveals he completely analyzed the stolen combination device within seconds. Calming her down, he suggests securing an audience before testing the stolen magic. Rizel boldly holds up the device, aggressively challenging the summoning goddess to reveal herself. After a tense silence, he realizes the cowardly deity refuses to take the bait. He casually dismisses her absence, knowing she will eventually be forced to appear. He dramatically announces the beginning of his combination experiment on himself and the hero. Melchior stares in total confusion, asking why he is not testing it with her. He explains the device solely absorbs magic power to permanently increase someone else's capacity. Melchior logically argues that using the device on her would be far more efficient. Rizel sighs, genuinely surprised she hasn't realized the massive gap in their raw potential. He bluntly reveals that her raw maximum capacity completely dwarfs his own. Melchior stammers in absolute disbelief upon hearing she possesses a higher ceiling than him. Rizel firmly vows she can surpass him, desiring a true partner who fights alongside him. Touched by his sincerity, she understands he only wants to ensure he never hinders her. Shifting gears, Rizel reveals the stolen device holds one more terrifying secret. He explains a direct magical link exists between the goddess and the device's mind circuit. Melchior gasps, horrified that the machine secretly connects directly to the divine entity. Rizel plans to exploit this link for mental manipulation, justifying why he must use it. Sensing his intense eagerness, Melchior finally yields and allows him to proceed. Despite her agreement, she nervously asks if his reckless experiment is actually safe. Rizel enthusiastically cheers for science, leaving Melchior to imagine Cecil's chaotic reaction. Gripping the glowing device, Rizel formally initiates the dangerous magical sequence. He grunts as violent surges of raw power violently rip through the artifact. Blinding light rapidly engulfs the area, forcing Melchior to shield her sensitive eyes. Rizel checks the activation, noting no problems and feeling his personality remains completely intact. Melchior anxiously asks him how the dangerous combination process actually went. Rizel notes his overflowing mana but confirms he can easily suppress the immense pressure. Looking back confidently, Rizel formally declares the complex magical experiment a complete success. A terrified human soldier stammers in pure disbelief at the unbelievable sight before him. Rizel and Melchior casually turn their attention toward the sudden interruption. Rizel wonders if the trembling man is the human troop captain. Sweating profusely, the captain frantically demands to know why the combination device is here. Staring at the stolen artifact, he realizes the demons somehow acquired their ultimate weapon. Melchior smugly explains they stole the heavily guarded device right out of the palace. Changing the subject, Rizel orders the terrified captain to deliver an item to his king. A glowing magical orb gently floats directly into the bewildered soldier's trembling hands. Rizel bluntly states this is their final warning for humanity to surrender completely. The captain panics, realizing delivering this message will certainly get him tortured and executed. Melchior wickedly threatens to simply sever his head and send it as a bonus. Shrieking in absolute terror, the cowardly captain rapidly agrees to deliver the ominous message. Rizel promises to rescue the man before his execution, telling him not to worry. Confused human soldiers approach their terrified commander to ask what just happened. Frantic with fear, the captain screams for a full retreat without any questions. Watching them flee, Rizel confidently assures Melchior the terrified man will deliver the orb. Rizel suddenly catches a lingering telepathic whisper from the retreating human captain. The captain desperately begs for rescue, swearing a vengeful grudge if Rizel lied. A massive crowd of demons gathers before the royal palace balcony. Stepping up to the railing, the demon lord looks down at her expectant people. Raising her hand, she authoritatively demands absolute silence from the massive crowd. She announces her departure to another world to train alongside Rizel for upcoming threats. The anxious demons erupt into panicked murmurs at the sudden news of her departure. Watching them sweat nervously, she silently anticipates their deep unease. She commands them not to fret, revealing she left her wisdom to someone else. Turning slightly, she firmly orders her chosen successor to step forward. She hands all political authority to her younger sister, praising Cecil's superior diplomatic skills. Glaring down with intense authority, she loudly dares anyone to voice their objections. Met with utter silence, she gently instructs Cecil to formally greet their subjects. Flashing a menacing glare, Cecil warns the demons to work ruthlessly in her sister's absence. Exuding a terrifying aura, the young girl aggressively demands to know if they understand. Trembling in pure terror, the intimidated demons rapidly stammer out their absolute compliance. Sweating nervously at her sister's sadism, Melchior desperately whispers for her to show moderation. Days later, Melchior asks why they are floating in the ocean to learn strengthening spells. Rizel casually instructs her to step back a little to observe the massive technique. Melchior silently obeys, watching him intently as immense magical energy begins to gather. She notes that Rizel is unusually taking a massive amount of time to cast. Her eyes widen in absolute shock as a colossal silhouette bursts from the water. A majestic, terrifyingly huge dragon completely materializes in the sky above her. Staring in awe, she asks if his strengthening spell actually means turning into a dragon. Rizel notes that a massive draconic body actually makes casting spells far more difficult. Chuckling, he reveals that there is naturally another crucial part to this complex spell. The massive beast grunts as violent bursts of glowing mana heavily condense its form. Shocked, Melchior realizes the towering dragon simply transformed right back into a regular human. Floating down gracefully, Rizel calmly instructs her to look much closer at his body structure. Narrowing her eyes, she meticulously analyzes his condensed magical composition in sheer bewilderment. She realizes he used a humanization technique to become both dragon and human simultaneously. Rizel smiles brightly and highly praises her flawless deduction of his advanced magical technique. Deep in thought, she intensely questions the tactical pros and cons of this dual transformation. She deduces that dragons possess superior spells but suffer from slow speed and poor control. The brilliant tactical realization finally hits her as she processes the ultimate magical loophole. Turning human without disabling the dragon form perfectly cancels out all the massive demerits. Rizel confirms she gains a resilient dragon body alongside flexible human wits and spellcasting. She realizes the user must defeat a dragon first, validating the ultimate strengthening concept. Chuckling nervously, she doubts her own ability to actually execute such a high-level technique. Rizel playfully chops her head, scolding her for immediately falling back into self-doubt. He declares her massive mana pool makes her the absolute best fit for this spell. Rubbing her head, she groans as he reprimands her deeply ingrained habit of low self-esteem. Rizel silently attributes her deep-seated insecurities to the years of endless abuse she endured. He notes that her incredibly low self-esteem directly connects to her current thought process. Accepting his responsibility as her mentor, he vows to help raise her shattered confidence. Apologizing for her weakness, Melchior humbly states that she will be heavily counting on him. He loudly declares that she absolutely must master self-strengthening magic to overcome this hurdle. Fired up by his encouragement, she tightly clenches her fists and enthusiastically agrees. Handing over a mysterious object, Rizel firmly instructs her to wear the glowing bracelet. He explains the pretty accessory acts as a minor spell stabilizer to lessen her training burden. Putting it on, she fiercely promises to master the dual dragon-human transformation immediately. Violent magical energy rapidly swirls around her as she initiates the highly complex spell. Absolute silence falls over the training grounds as she concentrates entirely on the difficult transformation. Rizel watches the magical build-up closely, humming softly in deep contemplation. A booming, monstrous voice suddenly echoes across the area as she wildly calls his name. Thrilled by her success, she excitedly announces that she finally learned the brutal transformation technique. Rizel praises her amazing feat while she eagerly asks if he wants to see the results. Stuck completely as a massive dragon, she panics while Rizel fondly remembers making the same mistake. Changing the subject, Rizel casually mentions he has an important question to ask her. He asks if the underwhelming combined hero was truly the absolute strongest entity in this world. Hearing her confirmation, Rizel thoughtfully accepts that the disappointing hero was actually their peak. Pointing directly upward, he suddenly asks if she knows anything hidden on the moon. The massive dragon stares blankly at him, completely thrown off by the incredibly random question. Tilting her colossal head in sheer bewilderment, she repeats his ridiculous question about the moon. She furiously snaps back, completely rejecting the absurd idea that anyone actually lives up there. Unfazed by her outburst, Rizel smirks and suggests it sounds entirely worth investigating further. Sighing deeply, the dragon tells him to do whatever he wants regarding the massive lunar theory. Rizel confidently confirms he was just about to do that. Complex magical arrays and data rings violently materialize around him. He extends his hand as immense magical energy gathers rapidly. The advanced scrying spell shoots directly toward the lunar surface. A massive magical interface processes the distant cosmic information. Visual feedback begins to steadily form within the magical display. The projection reveals a stunningly detailed view of the moon. The tracking magic locks onto a massive anomalous energy signature. An imposing figure suddenly senses the intrusive magical observation. The mysterious lunar entity easily deflects the distant scrying attempt. Rizel realizes the powerful entity forcefully severed his magical connection. He marvels that someone truly strong exists in this world. Rizel smirks wickedly at the thrilling prospect of a challenge. Melchior violently slams her hands down in absolute sheer disbelief. She furiously protests that she never heard of lunar inhabitants. Rizel teasingly asks if she wants to test her techniques. Determination completely overtakes her initially shocked and flustered facial expression. Clenching her fists tightly, she enthusiastically agrees to go immediately. Rizel smiles confidently and prepares for their upcoming cosmic journey. He declares their ultimate goal is defeating the moon's strongest. Approaching the lunar surface, they prepare to disembark. Looking at the structure, Rizel confirms they reach their destination. Melchior marvels in disbelief that people actually live on the moon. Rizel ponders the immediate problem of breaching the fortress. A sudden mechanical shift violently interrupts their thoughts. The massive door surprisingly opens on its own. Sensing no hostility, Melchior nervously wonders if it is a trap. Rizel insists they must enter the nest to find their target. They step cautiously into the dark, ominous corridor. Rizel halts abruptly, prompting Melchior to question the sudden stop. He shockingly detects breathable air and the distinct scent of grass. Stepping forward, their eyes widen in absolute pure astonishment. A sprawling, lush ecosystem thrives hidden inside the moon. Rizel identifies an absurdly powerful spatial creation spell sustaining the environment. He senses an overwhelming presence and realizes it is not human. A majestic entity demands to know their business. The towering figure glares down with immense suffocating pressure. Questioned about the open door, he claims going outside is troublesome. Yawning lazily, the humanoid dragon proves his staggering power. He forcefully repeats his demand to know their true purpose. Stepping up boldly, Melchior aggressively challenges him to a fight. Bursting into laughter, he praises her incredibly straightforward ambush declaration. Slightly flustered by his reaction, she asks if he accepts. Landing heavily on the grass, he confidently agrees to battle. Standing tall, the dragon casually asks who intends to strike first. Rizel silently acknowledges the entity is terrifyingly strong. Stepping forward, Rizel declares they will both attack him simultaneously. The dragon smiles, eagerly anticipating his first fun battle in millennia. He drops into a relaxed but absolutely flawless combat stance. Smirking confidently, he asks if they should finally get started. Blazing with mana, Melchior fiercely promises not to hold back. Rizel notes his student looks completely thrilled for the clash. Melchior violently explodes forward with blinding supersonic speed. The dragon effortlessly catches her devastating physical strike. He instantly retaliates with a blindingly fast counterattack. Calling her too slow, he brutally repels her assault. Rizel seamlessly intercepts the deadly follow-up strike. Impressed by the tag, the dragon highly praises their coordination. Rizel violently clashes his magic against the lunar beast. Grinning wildly, the dragon excitedly declares this the real deal. The dragon violently breaks out, boldly declaring the magical restraints will never hold him. Startled by a sudden ambush, he curses loudly after getting caught off guard from behind. He realizes with pure dread that he won't be able to dodge the incoming strike. Paralyzed by the overwhelming dense magical power, he finds himself completely unable to move. A massive magical blast violently erupts and engulfs the entire battlefield in blinding light. The devastating energy attack ruthlessly blasts the massive beast completely out of the sky. The dragon suddenly realizes his opponent is powerfully utilizing the legendary Dragonman strengthening technique. He grunts in intense frustration, having suspected this incredibly powerful technique all along. Enraged by their cunning plan to paralyze him, he prepares for yet another brutal strike. He glares intensely, finally realizing just how seriously outmatched he might actually be. Ryzel strategically notes that an ancient dragon's greatest flaw is its incredibly short temper. Scoffing arrogantly, the beast highly doubts a mere woman's kick could ever actually hurt him. Melchior brutally delivers a devastating high-speed kick directly into the arrogant creature's face. Coughing up blood, the staggering beast violently recoils from the sheer physical impact. Melchior ruthlessly prepares to deliver her ultimate finishing blow to end the entire fight. She violently smashes him into the ground, creating a massive shockwave of pure destructive force. The thick dust clears to reveal the colossal dragon completely battered and utterly defeated. Struggling just to breathe, the ancient beast finally admits his absolute and total defeat. The fallen dragon suddenly gazes up and recognizes Ryzel as a mysterious otherworldly being. The beast points out Ryzel's strange clothing to explain how he figured it out. The defeated dragon solemnly offers to impart his ancient combat skills directly onto Ryzel. Ryzel points to himself in pure surprise at the incredibly unexpected and generous offer. Chuckling weakly, the dragon bluntly insults the Demon King's apparent complete lack of talent. The beast earnestly begs Ryzel to honor an old ancient dragon's final dying request. Extending a glowing hand, the ancient creature officially prepares to pass on his legendary legacy. Ryzel solemnly accepts the ancient dragon's final dying request. Glowing magical energy rapidly transfers the legendary draconic skills. Stepping back, Ryzel firmly confirms he successfully received the ancient techniques. Fading away, the dragon expresses immense gratitude for fighting such strong warriors. His massive body slowly disintegrates into glowing particles of light. With a peaceful smile, he genuinely calls the battle really fun. Staring at the empty space, Melchior quietly notes that the beast is finally gone. She remains utterly stunned that such incredibly powerful beings actually exist. Ryzel respectfully acknowledges the dragon devoted his entire life to self-improvement. Frowning deeply, Melchior decides she desperately needs to say something important. Catching his attention, she nervously calls out to Ryzel. She angrily demands to know why he mercilessly finished off a defeated opponent. Ryzel hesitates slightly as he tries to formulate a proper explanation. She argues keeping the strongest entity alive would have been incredibly smart. Raising his hands, Ryzel insists the inherited technique perfectly explains everything. Melchior narrows her eyes suspiciously at the mention of this mysterious technique. A sudden burst of magical energy violently interrupts their tense conversation. Chuckling wickedly, the newly revived dragon asks what technique he inherited. Ryzel casually reveals the legendary skill is called Resurrection of the Dead. Enraged by the massive prank, Melchior furiously vows to kill the old dragon again.